Is this it? Oh, I can hear me now. I hear me. There's all kinds of voices in here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, we're good. Thank you for the compliment.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All right. Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting and work session for May 7th, 2019. I'm John Hutchings, Chair of the Board. To my right is
Time Answer, Commissioner.
And
Thomasina Cooper, Assistant Time Answer.
Labonita Beaumont, Clerk of the Board.
and
Ramiro Chavez, County Manager.
and this is Sports Theme Day for Spirit Week at the county. And my lanyard's a Seahawk, but I didn't want to wear the lanyard, so I'm playing the game too. And welcome everybody. And over here on the bench we have
Megan Porter, Public Information.
Thank you. So we're going to start with working off this sheet, but right from this sheet we're going to go to the Board of County Commissioners Tuesday, May 7th agenda for 2 o'clock this afternoon and go through that agenda. Number one, we'll call the meeting to order and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Ty Menser. And then allegedly we'll have an approval agenda and minutes from April 23rd and April 30. And then we're going to go right into presentations, and the first one is Public Defense.
Thank you. Good morning. Mr. Jose Vargas from the Office of Public Defense will give you a brief presentation related to the Thurston County Veterans Employee Resource Group, also known as a TCVERG, introducing some of the 2019 Steering Committee members. And also he will be introducing Ms. Shelley Slater, our Director of Public Health Social Services, as the new executive sponsor.
Wow, nice. Okay. Any questions regarding that?
No.
Okay, then. And what's decal presentation mean?
I'm sorry, what?
Jose Vargas will introduce the Thurston County. Right up top it says Yes Vets 2019 decal presentation.
Yeah, maybe Jose can come and give you a little more perspective on that.
Welcome, Jose. Introduce yourself, please, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jose Vargas. I'm the chair, the 2019 chair of the Thurston County Veterans Employee Resources Group. The Just Vet Decal is a program from the Department of Employment Security of the Washington State, and it's awarded to both private and public organizations to support the employment of vets. And this is quite a few years. I don't recall how many years we have received the Yes Vet Decal, but today a representative from the Employment Security Department will be here to present the 2018 decal or 19 decal to the county.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. That's a good answer then. Good.
Yeah.
Anything? Good. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Next, Human Resources Public Service Recognition Week proclamation.
Yeah, our Human Resources Director, Maria Ponti, will be highlighting this week, which is the Public Service Recognition Week. That's where we are wearing our Seahawks jerseys, not because there is a game today. It's just the spirit week. Bring your special jersey to work, or wear your special jersey to work. So, and she will give you a little bit of history as to how this came to be, and also she will be highlighting some of the events we have planned to celebrate our employees during this week.
Perhaps I'll put my jersey on after lunch for the BoCC meeting. Perhaps. Any questions regarding the Recognition Week proclamation? Okay. Next is Emergency Services proclamation of May 19 through 25. 2019 is Emergency Medical Services Week in Thurston County.
Yeah, Kurt Harding, our Emergency Services Director, will be giving a presentation to the commissioners for you to consider proclaiming the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2018 as the Emergency Medical Services Week in Thurston County.
Anything?
No.
Wow, we're screaming right along through. And then number one on the agenda is the opportunity for the public to address the board. I wouldn't imagine there's anything to talk about.
Yeah, there's, if I may, before you go, there's going to be a new agenda item on your consent agenda, and this is following the board's direction to have Mr. John Grissom to be appointed for the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District. And that requires a formal appointment by you, so this
Okay.
will be added to your agenda this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Where will that slide in, do you know?
consent item B? Consent
It
item
will
B.
be probably in the consent agenda. Yeah.
Okay.
Item 3A, most likely.
All right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'll
B.
skip ahead.
Got it. There it is, yeah. Okay, county manager's update.
Before you may be receiving public testimony, obviously on the matters that you're discussing perhaps this morning and maybe in the future. What I know is this morning you received an email from Mr. John Pettit. He will be coming this afternoon. So let me read this briefly so you're aware of what he's planning to address on the board. So today I'm writing as a pre-meeting notice of comments that may be made. I find it exceptional that there is rarely any response as to the actions of the board may take regarding issues. In a direct written type directly to citizens, it appears that the only purpose of the quote-unquote meetings is a dog and pony show to the citizens you care. But in reality, comment seems to be in a black hole or ignored. I think if this is the approach you feel is the best for your political futures, then we, the people, may need to escalate actions. Today, I will present to the board a proposed proposition to place on the ballot in this November to require any and all tax and fees increases to be subject to 60% plus one vote on the taxing district of Thurston County. This will remove the attacks of the citizens and taxpayers without behind-the-scene approach the county appears to enjoy currently. As to other issues, septic fees that should be removed, transportation benefit district that should lawfully should not be in place, etc. The people, we may behold you as members of the board to your oath of office through recall action for violations of laws and codes. We are tired of being ignored and no action is being taken. This time is done for being abused. You work for us, not the other way around. Mr. Pettit.
Okay, anything else on the update? Excuse me, anything else on updates?
No.
Okay. Question or comment on that? Nope. Okay. That will take us to agenda item 3, which is the consent items. It'll be A and B, the
Yep.
vouchers, and then the appointment of John Griffin. And for Commissioner Edwards, what was that that board that we're appointing him to, John Griffin?
That will be to the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District. As you may recall, that's a joint appointment, but all the cities of Lacey and Olympia, as well as the county. That's a county-wide representation.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to agenda item number 4, department items, Public Works. The first one's an interlocal agreement with the City of Tumwater for striping and roadway maintenance.
Yeah, you reviewed this item last week. The gist of this proposal before you is to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Tumwater for additional services the county can provide to the city. At this point, we do have a cooperating agreement with the City of Tumwater. However, it's very limited as to how much we can provide to the city. So they requested to cancel the current agreement and engage the county in a revised agreement that will allow us a little more latitude as to how they can partner with us when, in terms of striping, perhaps chip seal programs and overlay programs. As you know, the economy of scale always helps in delivering the services.
Anything? All right.
I remember last week.
Yeah. And 4B is the release of easement for Albany Street pond project we discussed before.
You discussed this this proposal maybe 2 weeks ago. At that point, you requested to have a formal presentation last week in the Rochester area where you held your regular board meeting. Staff provided an update on this project, and as a result, I believe that it was a little more clear as to the need to release this easement related to the project, because the release of this easement is predicated on securing additional easement from the same property owner for the new project. So, and that is the tie of this particular action.
Okay. Anything? Good. 4C, which excites me, is the contract award for the Toboggan Creek culvert replacement project.
This is the next project related to your investment with the real estate excise tax 2, where the commissioners have allocated $2 million a year. It started in 2017 and 18. Last year, the Department of Public Works delivered 5 fish barrier projects, which that program has won an state award and is scheduled to receive a national award in September. So this is the next project for your consideration. This is on Toboggan Creek, and the bid will be, is proposed to be awarded to BPCI Earthwork LLC. The bids were open on May 1st. We received 8 total bids, and the low bid was $646,642. The engineer's estimate was $662,405. So the low bid was a little below the engineer's estimate. And the staff is requesting for you to considering awarding this contract to, again, BPCI Earthworks with an additional 20% contingency to account for any unforeseen construction issues in the field for a total of $727,972. And again, this is coming from the real estate excise tax 2 funding.
Okay. Anything?
Any chance you could let me know what the high bid? Any chance you could let me know what the high bid is at some point? You don't have to.
Now let me look. I can probably give you right now.
Just don't hear you.
Okay, so the high bidder.
I guess I'll repeat that question then, just for the audience. Any chance you could give me the number for the high bid, please? And if you don't have it, I don't need it right now. I just need
I
it for
have the
information.
third low bidder, which was the $644,109. So it's still a little below the engineer's estimate.
Yeah, okay.
And this is in addition to the state just awarded 1.2, 1.7 million for Spurgeon Creek.
It was 1.7 for 2
1.7.
culverts on the Spurgeon Creek, and that was
That's
part of the legislative session they just happened.
That tickles me. That is way cool. All right, and nothing? Nope. All right, that moves us on to agenda item number 5, county manager items.
I will
Everything?
just give you your upcoming schedule for the next week. Walk you through the combined meetings that you have.
All right, and then at 3 p.m. Go ahead.
I just,
Sorry, Mr.
thinking back to Commissioner or County Manager report earlier, where you respond to citizens and you mentioned Mr. Pettit's. One thing is that since he specifically mentions, us not addressing his various concerns, it seems like he's a religious attender of the 2 p.m. meeting, and he never comes to the 9 a.m. meeting, which is where we discuss all of his different issues. So my suggestion would be to encourage him to attend our 9 a.m. agenda setting meetings.
Yeah,
because-
and I have highlighted that this is live streaming, and also he has the opportunity to review the video. And as you know, we have also responded to his comments via letter as well.
Mhm.
So
Some folks just don't understand the dynamics between the morning
Yeah.
meeting and the afternoon meeting, and it sounds like from his
Yeah.
email this morning, he doesn't understand that difference in dynamic.
yeah, and in fact, I believe the last time that he was presented public testimony to you, he was making a reference of a letter the county sent to him in response to one of his comments. Yeah.
Yeah, and just for the record, the county has been exceedingly responsive to Mr. Pettit. That takes us to 3 p.m., where we have a public hearing from CPED, the Community Planning and Economic Development, regarding the Emergency Housing Ordinance interim regulations.
Yeah, 3 in the afternoon, you will receive public testimony related to a proposed emergency ordinance. When you, through this ordinance, you will deviate from the current county code to allow this particular use in county property. And that will be for potential mitigation sites related to homelessness. That is the gist of that. In this particular action this afternoon, you will just close the public hearing. will schedule a follow-up briefing with you for you to review all the public testimony that you may have, and perhaps some revisions that staff is going to be proposing to you to the ordinance. This particular ordinance does not key on a specific site. That's not the intent. I know there has been on the news, based on the conversation that you had in a joint meeting you had with the City of Lacey Council last week, wherein a specific site was discussed. This ordinance does not label or does not mention this particular site. This ordinance is just set the stage that perhaps the county, among with the other cities, can probably look for a particular site for homeless mitigation.
And just to be like further clarification for the public, the ordinance, the structure of the ordinance is such that it's not elements of code that we're going to be waiving. It's basically elements of the code that we would give ourselves the option on a case-by-case basis to waive.
Is on the current code, there's some limitation. You just expanded those limitations if you choose to approve this ordinance, yes. And staff will be here to give you the staff's update and give you a perspective of the written comments that we might receive and obviously the oral testimony you might receive this afternoon as well.
Anything else on the public hearing?
Well, I guess maybe just one follow-up on, I noticed a difference between Section 4 that we're going to be talking about. There's some things left out compared to the other municipal areas.
I'm sorry, I don't know what document
I don't know,
you're looking
it's a paragraph, it looks like, that got left out of the print material. Is this going to be, we can address that later, I suppose.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, Commissioner.
I'm looking at the ordinance that we're going to be adjusting, or the new ordinance coming in.
I provided you a copy of the ordinance last week. There is subject to the public hearing.
Yes, that's it. And there seems to be a paragraph.
Yeah, and revisions to that ordinance will be presented to you formally on an upcoming briefing.
Okay, good enough.
So any revisions to the ordinance that's not applicable because the ordinance on which you have set the public hearing is set.
Thank you.
That has not changed.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
This now takes us to review of next week, May 14th. We have a doubleheader. We'll have a Board of County Commissioners meeting and then followed by the Board of Health. And we're going to start with the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. And we'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock. Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Gary Edwards. Approval of the agenda and minutes, and then move to opportunity for the public to address the board. Bit early? Every day?
Yeah, a bit early. So,
Okay. County Manager's update?
Yeah,
Similar?
and again, I will follow up as I do every Tuesday to
Okay.
any citizens' comments.
And then we have consent items A through E at this point in time. The first one is Human Resources approve the collective bargaining agreement between Thurston County and AFSCME Local 618 CD.
Yeah, as this is I believe a success by Human Resources staff where they have negotiated a bargaining agreement for 3 years, which begins January 1st, 2019 and ends December 31st, 2021 with Local 168 CD that will be Corrections Union.
618,
Yeah, and again, I think is what it provides a predictable way to meet the expectations both from the labor unions as well as from the county.
Okay. Anything?
No.
Anything? Okay. 3B is the Sheriff's Office redirect ER&R funding for SWAT van replacement to the match for the Port
Yeah,
of Security.
this is an item you may or may not agree. I just want to have it for your consideration because you will have later this morning on your agenda a conversation related to a proposed grant the Sheriff's Office would like to apply to replace the SWAT vehicle. And within that context, I'll give you more details in terms of the funding aspects, funding mechanisms, in which the Sheriff's Office plan to fulfill the requirements of the match of the grant. So, and if the board doesn't agree with that, this item will disappear.
I saw that in the packet. earlier. Okay, good. Any questions on that? Comments, anything?
No, sir.
All right. 3C, the Sheriff's Office again, Port Security Grant
Yeah,
application.
The C and D, both are approvals for the Sheriff's Office to apply for a grant. One's for the Port Security Grant. I don't believe you need a national item for this, so I will remove this. That will be your decision this morning. And also, I don't believe you need a decision for 3D, so I will remove this item as well. And the item 3D is related to the JAG grant. The Sheriff's Office is planning to apply. There's a little bit of history behind that. You had a briefing last week related to the JAG grant. For the public's perspective, last year, that would be the Justice Assistant Grant from the Department of Justice, the JAG grant. Last year, we're in the process of accepting the JAG grants, and through the process, the county as well as the prosecuting attorney decided not to accept the grants because the Department of Justice put some restrictions or requirements related to ICE and immigration components of that. So at that point, and again, the prosecuting attorney, along with the board, decided not to accept those grants. That was already underway in terms of the federal court. It was a challenge related to those requirements. I believe that has been resolved, but we're in the process of confirming that that is the case. I don't think we have received any confirmation from the prosecuting attorney's office. But as soon as we get that confirmation, we'll bring this to your attention again, whether you'd like to, the Sheriff's Office to continue to apply for the JAG grant.
I'll wait.
Nope.
Well, I applaud the board's decision last year not to accept this grant, and I won't be taking any action or supporting it unless I get confirmation from the prosecuting attorney that the situation has completely changed. If that's true, then I'll consider it. But at this juncture, I don't have that information and not willing to.
They're working on it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm working on giving you that.
That was my question, is there any ETA from the prosecutor, and what kind of a deadline are we looking at so it matches up?
So I had asked if they could have the information to us by this morning, but Elizabeth has not had the time to get to it yet. So she knows that the request is ASAP, and she's working on it. So we
Okay.
should know very soon.
Is there a deadline? What is the deadline for the grant? Do we know?
The application needs to be in by the end of this month.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons, the sheriff would like an answer sooner rather than later. So we're trying to get it as soon as we can.
And I appreciate that. And I know there was chatter about the option of applying for it, and if it's awarded, we don't need to accept it. But I'd rather, maybe that was one of the other grants, but I would rather have all this footwork done ahead of time so we're not wasting time.
So in
Or
most
effort.
circumstances, when we apply for a grant, we don't know if we're going to get it. But in this particular circumstance, we know that the Department of Commerce, the Washington State Department of Commerce, is ready to release the funds to us. We just need to get the application in. So it's pretty much a sure thing if we turn in the application. So I would encourage you to have all the answers to your questions before you give a green light to the sheriff.
Good. Then that'll happen. So C and D are off the agenda then today.
Yeah, I think it doesn't require a formal action by you.
But A remains.
Yes.
I'm sorry, B. 3B, the
Yeah,
ban.
and that is redirecting funds, and that's one of the strategies as to how they're going to be coming up with the matching requirements. And we'll give additional information later on the agenda item.
Okay. Anything?
No.
Okay. Takes us to 3E, Edward, the auditor's financial, services, the voucher list. And we'll get that list coming up this week. Takes us to agenda item number 4, department items, Public Health and Social Services, set a public hearing for the 2019 HUD Annual Action Plan.
Yeah, this is for your consideration to set a public hearing for Tuesday, June 18th, 2018 at 3 in the afternoon. And this is related to, here in this room, related to the fiscal year 2018 for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD Annual Action Plan. Within the Thurston County receives funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, for Home Investment Partnership Programs, the Home and the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, to provide a variety of activities that serves the low-income households and individuals. This funding is contingent upon a 5-year consolidated plan, which you have already approved. That is in the process of being reviewed, and which sets policy direction for the county's activities during the 5-year period. Thurston County again adopted the 2018-2022 consolidated plan in 2018. So the annual action plans identify the specific projects and the specific allocations for funding. As you are well aware, you are participating on the CIP, part of the distribution, and I'm representing the county in terms of the CDBG money, the Community Block Grant Program, working with the mayors of the South cities. Again, this is just for you to set the public hearing to receive public testimony related to the proposed allocations. And I believe Gary Aiden is here. If you have any questions related to this
Any questions?
program.
Oh, any questions?
No.
Three no's. Thank you, Gary. Agenda item number 5, Central Services, a resolution declaring an emergency and recognition of recognizing the need for immediately evaluating conditions. Will you finish that for me, please?
So I haven't had the opportunity, but next week I will revise the description and the action. But right now, the gist of this action is at the triage facility. We have bathrooms that needs to be replaced. And by you declaring an emergency allows the department to forego the bidding process. And that's what it is. Hopefully we can go through and replace these bathrooms in a timely manner as opposed to go through the bidding process. Go ahead.
So that'll come back and be revised?
Yeah, I will revise the language to be a little more clear.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
How old is that facility that we're talking about?
The triage facility, I believe that was built in 2015, 16.
Okay, and my other question is, it's not an emergency right now? We're anticipating they're not going to work, or
No.
what's the holdup? I mean, how come we're not going forward sooner if it's an emergency?
Because the emergency requires for you, the board, to forego the bidding process.
Yes, but I'm wondering if they're not working over there and we're declaring emergency, how come we don't do it today?
Well, if you like, we can bring this item today. Hopefully I have the time to review the language to make it more clear. But I believe Central Services, it's okay by having this item next week before you. And the word emergency is you have the latitude on certain circumstances to forego the bidding process. So there is time to address this issue. So it's not an immediate emergency in a way. That makes sense?
Yeah, okay. I just wondered, I didn't know if we had porta potties over there. Or
So and again, I'll revise the action to be a little more succinct.
Yes. So will Michael Crow be coming in to give us a briefing on what the issue is that needs to be repaired and or evaluated?
Yeah, he will give you a presentation next week. Absolutely.
Next week?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then 5B, approval of a 5-year lease with Drebick Investments, LLC for Superior Court Drug Court Office. Yeah,
the Superior Court Drug Court Office is located on the 2400 Bristol Court Southwest, Olympia. And they're currently using a 5,008 square feet office space. And the current lease expires on July 15, 2019. So the request for you is to have a new 5-year lease contract with Drebick Investments, which is the owner. The annual rent for the first year, that will be July 15, 2019 to July 15, 2020, will be $75,744. That will be $6,312 a month. And after that is a 2.5% increase per year. And also the annual utility rates of the lease in 2018 were $11,405 and are estimated to be $11,750. And that is a little bit of an increase. As you know, as conducting business is also increases on the lease that we have with other facilities.
Do you have anything on that?
Everybody's happy with the facility, is it?
Yeah, I believe this is a good lease agreement. Obviously, we need the space to continue with the services on drug court. And again, the increases on the lease is very minimum. It's just related to inflation, as you know, 2.5%.
Yeah, I have questions. You have a question?
Did you say how many square feet again?
Is 5,008.
And then the 6,000 a month or something?
Yeah, just about, it's
Is that a
$6,312.
standard rate per square foot? Is
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of
just
what we're ended up
for the
with?
type of the building, but we consider it to be a type B building.
So in the description and the action, this is a renewal of an existing lease?
Yes, sir.
Can we add the word approve renewal of a 5-year lease? I'm looking at it, it looks like a brand-new lease.
But it is
a new lease.
It is a brand new lease for another 5 years. Because the terms and conditions changes from the previous lease, so it's a brand new lease.
Okay, so it's a new lease, we're not renewing anything. Okay, and is there a need to put the amount of money that's in there in the action?
Certainly, if you like, yeah. You like the total yearly amount or the monthly amount?
Either one, because people can do the math, so at least it's there, so they can see it. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, Public Works, approval of interlocal agreement with the City of Tenino and Town of Bucota for Rural Community Support Program funding.
So there's an agreement where Thurston County receives federal funds allocated to those smaller communities. And as will be the cities of Tenino and the Town of Bucota, because they don't have the means and methods to manage the federal requirements. So what we do, we take the federal grants and we give road funds to this, which is no strings attached. That is really the process that we go through. This is not new, and this is just a renewal of this process that has been agreed with the Thurston Regional Planning Council. And this particular agreement includes the allocation of $24,691 for Tenino and $7,018 for Bucota. But there's also an additional $63,000 that distribution has to be based on project specific between those two cities.
Yes, this has been, so Thurston Regional Council has authorized this or recognized it as a valid expenditure?
Absolutely, and again, this is federal dollars, and as you know, the requirements when we receive federal grants are significant in terms of reporting, in terms of meeting the specific requirements in the contract and the specifications. So what it does is somewhat of a pass-through money of the federal funds to those towns and cities.
Do we need to be aware of the individual projects that are involved, or is that outside of our bailiwick?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But certainly,
Well, you say I don't think so, and Robert was saying yes.
I can get information to you. I can certainly get information. I mean, if you're interested, I can give you that information with projects.
I just wonder if the public isn't interested in how their dollars are spent. That's the only.
I'm sure the city will have, they may have plans as to how they plan to spend those dollars within their jurisdiction.
I don't think we have to get into the minutia of it, but if it's going to a particular activity.
Robin, please share.
So if money's going through the county, we need to be able to ensure that it is spent in an appropriate way.
Okay, well, that's
So
kind of what I
we-
was
we
looking
do-
for. Okay.
Yes, we do that.
Good. Anything?
Did you say that this was targeted at roads? You said something about road funds and I didn't catch it.
Well, what happens is it's related to transportation projects. So brings to the federal dollars gets allocated to Thurston County. So we take the federal dollars, we know how to manage those dollars, we know how to report those dollars, we know how to respond to the requirements. But as a result, we pass through, I believe it's like a 90 cents per dollar that we pass through because we take 10% for administrative fees. And so when we take the transfer to those jurisdictions is through the road fund, which doesn't have those strings attached of the federal requirements. That makes sense.
So we take in the federal money, which we know how to manage, and then we give these communities non-federal money that is where what they're doing is an eligible cost.
And TRPC's role is to identify,
TRPC received the original federal allocation, and then they work with us to do this
Okay.
pass-through. When I first got here, I looked at it very carefully, and it is absolutely all appropriate, and we make sure that the projects are appropriate expenditure of the funds. But because these communities are small, as Romero said, federal grants have onerous requirements, and we do that all the time. We work with the federal grants all the time, but these small communities, the reporting requirements would be overwhelming. So we take the federal money and we pass through non-federal money.
One for one?
No,
No,
it's 90
not quite.
cents. 90 cents. We take some administrative cost.
Is
And this
there- Well, I mean, I've seen situations where we manage or one group manages for another group and takes an administrative fee. That's normal, from what I can
Right.
tell. Is there some particular reason why we're funneling the non-federal dollars to the towns? Is there some flexibility that they get out of that versus
Yes,
just
they don't have to meet the federal reporting requirements.
because we're technically getting?
We take that federal money and use it on road projects. That frees up some of our money that we would have used on those projects, some non-federal money that we pass through to the communities. It's
the
a swap.
federal government's fine with that.
And, yes,
what you're
it's
saying.
all legal.
This is not unusual for Thurston County.
Right, we
In
do
my-
this every year.
In my past life, we used to do the same.
Well, that-
In
go ahead.
Pierce.
Okay,
Are you done? Okay, go ahead.
that does raise, you said not unusual for Thurston County. I hope we're not the only ones that do it this
No,
way.
that's
No.
what I'm saying.
Okay,
In my previous
good.
life in Pierce County, we,
Okay.
I remember we received grants for the Federal Transit Administration, FTA, and that by itself had a different set of requirements. So we got into similar agreement with Pierce Transit because they knew how to manage the FTA grants, and as a result, we received 85 cents or 90 cents per
Okay.
dollar.
And
That point.
the county's doing the work as well then?
No.
No,
No, the
they're doing-
communities do.
Even
the work.
Dakota, they're doing their own?
Because at that point, it's an allocation to their community, and then the community identified the projects within their own community as to how they want to spend the
Okay,
dollars.
but we do all the
Right.
federal follow-up reporting and requiring,
Right.
all that
And
junk.
TRPC does the review of the small community grants. They get the applications in. We just facilitate the, making it easier for the small communities to be able to accept money and do their projects.
Nice. Anything else? Got it?
No, I'm good.
That takes us to 6B, contract award for 2019 chip seal program.
Yeah, for your considerations is to award the contract of the 2018 chip seal program to Doolittle Construction of Bellevue, Washington.
Yeah.
And for they were the low bidders. There are only 2 bids received on April 25th. And the Doolittle Construction was the low bidder with $1,937,993. The department is asking for you to consider approving and awarding this grant, this project, with an additional 10% of contingency for a total of $2,131,793.
Anything?
No, we just hope that they do a
A
lot.
lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Do a lot, yeah. With little money.
This is not the first time that we have awarded this type of contracts to this outfit.
Yeah, I remember laughing last year, or chuckling, I'm sorry. All right, 6C, grant award, again, 2019 overlay program.
Yeah, this is for the overlay, the 2019 overlay program. And this is to award to Miles Resources LLC from Puyallup, Washington, In this case, there were 5 bids, and Miles Resources LLC was the low bidder with $599,665.20. The director is asking for you to consider awarding this contract to Miles Resources LLC with an additional 10% for a total of $659,955.
Anything?
No.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to agenda item number 7, county manager's items.
This is for you to approve the meeting notes of last year. Usually those we have those on the consent agenda, but since considering the Commissioner Messner was not part of these notes, there's an action item for you, perhaps consider approving those notes.
Okay. Anything?
No.
Okay, and then we move at 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll move to the Board of Health agenda. Board of Health agenda for Tuesday, May 14th. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:30, approve the agenda and meeting minutes of April the 9th, and get right into agenda item number 2, which are the proclamations and presentations. And the first one is National Nurses Week.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am Shelley Slaughter, Administrator of your Board of Health and Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And with me is our Clerk of the Board,
Lydia Hodgkinson.
And yes, we have 3 proclamations for you at Board of Health meeting next week. The first one being National Nurses Week. We will have our own public health nurses, Beth Cumberland, as well as Gretchen Toller and other nurses from our Nurse Family Partnership Program to accept the proclamation. And we're honoring not only public health nurses, but all the nurses in our community that work in healthcare to ensure that our community is cared for and has access to health services. So we want to honor them.
Anything on that?
No.
Of which there is a national shortage.
There is. Nurses are desperately needed and play a really vital role in our community, so we'll highlight that as well.
And you might not know the answer to this, Shelley, but with a national shortage, and it's highly competitive to get into nursing school or RN school, does this open that up more, where they relax it so it's not as competitive, we can get more men and women into that profession?
I think overall, as part of workforce development, there's many people working on ways that we can increase nurses in our community and utilize nurses to provide essential health care for people in our community. And that includes working with our colleges and universities to ensure that we have an adequate workforce as our population is expected to increase.
I know the only reason I bring it up is SPSCC has an RN program, a nursing program, and I hope that they would, Dr. Stokes would, I don't know if they can or can't do, but open it up to get more folks in. Okay, next presentation.
The next proclamation is it is Drinking Water Week, and it is the 45th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act, and we will have our own environmental health staff, Eric Iverson, who runs our drinking water lab here, as well as some other representatives and stakeholders that help us ensure that our community has safe drinking water, and that includes Sean Odell from Washington Water and Drew Noble from H2O Management Services. So this proclamation will not only highlight the importance of safe drinking water, but it will also highlight what our role at Thurston County Public Health is in ensuring that our community does have safe, clean access to drinking water, and we'll include a short presentation about that program.
Anything?
No.
Hey, is H2O Management Services, is that a private company? Or is it state?
I am not certain.
It's a private utility.
It's a private utility.
Management firm.
Okay, thank you.
That's Art Starry, our
That's
Environmental
Art
Health
Starry,
Division Director, in the audience here, telling us that that is a private contractor.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you. And that was a viable, valid comment from the audience. Thank you, Art. Thank you. The next proclamation.
Yes, it is also, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to highlight the importance of mental health in our community, and so we're going to be sharing information from several programs, including, or 2 programs actually, including our treatment sales tax program, and Carrie Hennon will be here who is our program manager for treatment sales tax, who will be introducing this proclamation, and then shortly thereafter we'll move into a presentation from our behavioral health organization.
Anything?
No.
I do, of course. Commissioner Menser and I sit on the board for a behavioral health organization, and it is exceedingly complex, is it not?
It is.
Good grief, very complex. But I just want to put a plug in that this being Mental Health Month, that last month I did a video where I interviewed Mark Friedman, the CEO of the BHO, and interviewed a service provider and a young man who is a service provider recipient who suffers from schizophrenia. And starting, I believe it's this week, that's going to be starting to play on the local Thurston Community Media channel. So I encourage people, look it up, or you can't look it up, but watch for it. And I believe it's also going to be on the county website. I'm not sure. Do we put that on the county website? It's only 25-minute gigs. It's not an hour.
Yes, Commissioner, it was actually posted to our social media yesterday, and it will be on our YouTube page, as well as Thurston Community Media will begin playing it on Channel 3.
Good. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the BHO and what they do and how they impact our local community during Mental Health Month, or anytime, look for it. Thank you. Agenda item number 3, opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. Shelley, aware of anything? Anyone be coming in?
I am not aware of any
Health
at this time.
Okay. Agenda item number 4, the Thurston Mason BHO TruBlood program.
So Mark Friedman from Thurston Mason BHO, he is the administrator of the program, along with his staff, will be here to discuss the alignment with Mental Health Week with services that they provide to individuals involved in the criminal justice system who have behavioral health issues, and how they are supporting those individuals in alternative pathways to justice and ensuring that they get the treatment that they need.
Good. Anything?
No, good. It's a good program, and if you miss it at the Board of Health meeting, there's also in June they're going to be presenting at the State Behavioral Health Conference in Vancouver, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So that'll be
Are
exciting.
you going?
I am going.
Yes. Good. Good. Yeah, you'll enjoy it. And speaking of the TruBlood, the individual that graduated from that TruBlood program is the one that's interviewed on the TCM piece. They explained the TruBlood program, which is really cool. All right, agenda item number 5, department items, the TST Treatment Sales Tax Annual Report.
Yes, so we're very excited to be able to present this at Board of Health because we are, again, aligning it with Mental Health Month. So we thought this was a perfect opportunity to do that. At times that's done at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, but we thought it was really important to highlight the health impacts that program is making in Thurston County. So Carrie Hennon, our program manager, and Pam Gant, our data analyst, will present to you the 2018 report, and that shows the impact of the investments that you have made with the treatment sales tax dollars and how that helps our community.
Anything? Anything? Me neither. Thank you. Item number 6, department item, homelessness and public health crisis update.
Yes, so Keely Marino, who is Thurston County's Homeless and Affordable Housing Coordinator, will share a monthly report on all of the activities that she has been working on in partnership with many others in our community to address the public health crisis that you declared in June of 2018.
Anything? Yeah.
I guess I would ask that, if possible, she include in there what we're doing on the whole homeless program, if you will, having to do with treatment for drug addiction and for mental health treatment. I don't see us fixing it if we're not addressing that particular problem.
We'll certainly be happy to include information about that.
Anything? Okay. Takes us to item number 7 on the agenda, the Board of Health members' health-related activities, where we have talked about social service involvement since the last board meeting, and we'll share, if anything. And then number 8 on the agenda is the Health Officer's Report, Dr. Rachel Wood.
Yes, Dr. Wood will be here to share on various activities that she has been working on in her role as health officer for our community, and specifically addressing some of the communicable diseases that we have been faced with, including measles update, which we do not have any current cases in Thurston County.
And Dr. Wood's in the house. Do you have any questions or comments about that issue?
I do not.
I do not.
I do not. Thank you. And then Director's Report.
Yes, and then I will share with you some great highlights that our department has been working on over the last month and upcoming events of interest to improve the health of the community and carry forward our mission of increasing health for all.
Good, thank you. And that takes us to an adjournment of that Board of Health meeting. Now we're back to this one, proclamations and awards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Lydia.
Thank you.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
I do not have any other proclamations or awards at this time. We will have Public Works Week proclamation on the 21st of May, and I believe that is going to conclude our proclamations for May.
Okay.
Which one? I'm sorry, the 21st?
The Department of Public Works Week.
Okay.
The Department of Public Works for Public Works
Week.
Week.
Anything?
Will they be doing the rodeo during that
Yeah, they're
process?
planning to do
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeehaw.
And there's already breakfast before the rodeo there, where all of you are invited.
Okay.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay.
That's it.
So you bulk up and then you go out in the truck and get sick. You're driving around fast through cones and such. It's really amazing what they do. That's it then, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and then advisory boards and commissions.
We have already added the one advisory board member for the Capitol Facilities
Area,
District,
okay.
particular one.
Sound good,
And I
then.
don't have any other new appointments or reappointments at this time.
Okay. Questions or comments on the
Thank you.
boards or commissions?
No.
All right, thank you, Law.
Thank you.
Takes us to PIO check-in. Megan,
Good morning, Commissioners.
good morning.
Good morning. So based on the success of last week's off-site BoCC meeting in Rochester, we're going to move forward with scheduling 2 more this year. One in Yelm, probably this summer, and one in Tenino, probably during the fall. So more to come on those, but we are working on getting those scheduled much more further in advance so that we can advertise those a little bit more. You stole my thunder a little bit on the Thurston County Connection, but yours was
Sorry.
posted yesterday. So that one's out now for people to view. It's a really good one. I also encourage people to go watch that one. It's on mental health. And I'm meeting with Kathleen Deacons with J. Ray on the courthouse communications. So we are going to talk about the video this afternoon. So working on getting an informational video together and out for the citizens to be able to view.
Do you have anything for PIO?
No, I don't.
You're going to again talk about the water resources
Yes.
chat?
Yeah, so the panel discussion at the Evergreen State College at Purse Hall in Lecture Hall 1 on May 23rd from 4 to 6 p.m. 3 of our directors are going to be talking about water, so water quality, quantity, and how stormwater is managed in Thurston County. That's going to be open to the public. We will begin announcing all of that this week through news release and flyers and social media. So that's coming up as well.
Good. And I'm glad you said that about the Rochester BoCC meeting that we did last week. It was fun. It was fun and it was packed. It was very, very
successful.
engaged. The people were engaged. And Yelm and Tenino coming up. Tenino in the fall is lovely. So look forward to that. I have nothing else.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, it is 5 minutes to 5. We're going to get into a lot of the meat of the subject, but we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break so people can do their bio stuff. And we'll come back here at 10:05, please. 10:05, thank you. All right, welcome back. And now we're moving into the agenda. This is a briefing, public hearing decisions pending item. And the first one is comprehensive plan amendment. And I'm turning to Romero.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. I'm going to frame this particular issue related to the process that is available to you as a legislative authority as to how you can move forward to entertain or not any particular request from citizens as a way to amend the comprehensive plan.
And remember, we don't have anything in the packet regarding this. There's nothing in here.
You do have.
We do have, okay.
Oh, it's right on top of me. Right on top, I got
You
it.
do have.
Thank you.
So in order to get to the point of the process itself that is available to you, I'm going to give you a historic perspective because it is important to give you the historic perspective in order to conclude as to what the options that is available to you in terms of the process. So back in February 21st, 2018, you got a board briefing where
Excuse me? Hang on, yeah.
all good. So, and again, back in February 21st, 2018, you received a briefing from staff where staff provided you with some proposals related to the comprehensive plan amendment docket and leading to for you considering approval of the 2018-2019 comprehensive plan development docket, comprehensive plan amendment docket. So the normal practice of the board is not to make decisions on the same day. So you had a follow-up conversation on February 27th, where you had among many conversations you made. The board at that time made a specific decision related to this process. And that was February 27, 2018. And the decision was suspend the application period for new comprehensive plan amendments until the completion of the comprehensive plan periodic update. Applications will still be accepted, however, will not process as part of the docket until completion of the comprehensive plan update. That is an important piece of information that you need to consider. And that decision was made by the board, and again, and back in February 27, 2018. Moving forward to March 6, 2018, the board took a formal action approving the comprehensive plan docket that included citizens' initiatives as part of your review. And in your packet is a copy of the current docket that will be the 2018-2019. And that looks like this, right? So that is the current scope of work of the 2018 and 2019 docket. So the decision made by the board on February 27, 2018, is stopping receiving or processing new applications was related to emphasizing item number 1 of the approved docket. That's the periodic update, which is the comprehensive plan update. At that time, when the board approved the 2018-2019 docket, that was set as a number 1 priority. And I believe that was the gist in which the board provided that decision at that time. So since staff has following up with the direction of the board, they have expressed to the citizens that in fact at this point they are receiving applications, but they are not processing because under this direction that you provided, the board provided back in February 27, 2018. Fast forward to today, you have an application related to the North Point. And related to the process, I'd like to present the options that that's available to you. And this is again related specifically to the process. In order for you to amend the docket, you need to open the receiving applications not just from one outlet, but from many. And for now, right now, that application process is closed. So no citizens out there have been appraised of the understanding the board has opened up to receive new applications. And that is important in the process because at this point, you don't have the ability to entertain amending the docket on a specific item if you had not made this process available to the rest of the county and other citizens that perhaps have other applications for your consideration. And so that is an important piece that you need to consider related to the process. So the options that I'm presented to you in terms of the process, in this attached on this sheet, is option number one is the do nothing, and that states as move to direct the staff to continue to review projects in the Thurston County 2018-2019 official docket of the comprehensive plan amendments approved in March 6, 2018. And that is what I consider to be the business as usual. Continue to do that. That will mean doing this. Okay? And also it will mean to concentrate on item number one, which is the periodic update. If you like to consider amending the current docket, meaning in 2019, then option 2A is what you may consider. Because at this point, the option 2A, you rescind the decision that you made in February 27, the board made, 2027, 2018. And then you open for new applications to all the citizens in the county for everyone to submit applications as they see fit. In that period of time, you can decide for how long or how short you want to do it. But that is essential and important for you to open up this application process to everyone. So after that application process is closed, then you will entertain all the applications along with the North Point, whether you like to consider adding to the docket. So option 2A gives you the option to rescind the decision of February 27, 2018, open up the docket with the option that you may amend the 2019 docket, okay? And that will be adding items to the preliminary docket as we know. Option 2B, as an alternate, is the same as option 2A, with the difference that you will open up for new applications, but you will not consider those applications until your normal process of approving the new docket, which is in 2020. So that will be for 2020
It's all done.
and 2021. Okay?
Okay.
I think you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to clarify something. We've discussed some of this, but for the audience or the viewing public, because they have access, isn't this available to the public? Everybody's
right.
got this?
Yes, copies in.
Okay, we don't have it listed as 2A or 2B, and I'm just trying to clarify
Okay,
that
so, yeah.
so that we don't confuse people thinking that we're talking about something that's not on here. It has to, it's A, which is the first motion, B, alternate optional second motion.
Okay.
Just trying to clarify that with the
Okay,
public.
thank you. So option number one is the first motion, and option number two has a first motion and alternate option.
Very good, thank you.
So to recap, under option number one, the option that you have is business as usual. Continue with the work related to this docket list that you have approved, the board approved 2018-2019. Option two, first motion, or first option for you will be to rescind the decision made by the board on February 27, 2018, and open up for a certain period of time, yet to be decided, for you to entertain other applications. They will be part of the preliminary docket. And this first option is a period of time for you to consider amending the 2019 docket. That's the difference. And the option number 2, the alternate option, is the same as the previous, but you will not consider applications until 2020, which is your normal cycle of approval of the docket.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Process, there's 3 commissioners and 3 options. Are we going to vote between 1 and 2, and then only if 2 is
Yeah.
approved, then we would talk about
Yeah.
A or B?
Yes, and first of all, I will entertain that.
Is your mic on? I couldn't hear you through here.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
My question was process. We have 3 commissioners and 3 choices. Are we going to be voting between 1 and 2 first? And then if 2 is of the majority, then we would vote between option A and B.
Yeah, so first of all, you need to have a conversation among yourselves and the way that I'm planning to address this in terms of how you like to vote on this. Would you like to consider a business as usual or amending the docket? And between the 2, then, when you amend the docket, what option you will, the board would like to proceed with?
Got that?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Okay, just for clarification on this, under option 1, we need to complete everything on this form before we can move and accept any other applications, doesn't matter what it is. We're kind of locked into not doing anything until we get caught up with our comprehensive plan update. And that update has been coming since 2004, is my understanding. And then in 2008, maybe the legislature adjusted it up, and now, so it was supposed to be done 2004, then 2008 at some point, or 10, 8 years?
No, as I believe is the last update was 2004.
Okay.
And at that point, it was a litigation file against the county, which it took us all the way to 2012
Okay,
to
12.
solve that case. And at that point, is the legislature extended
4 more years to 16.
to 2016. And
Okay.
that's where we are.
So,
And also the decision the board made back in February 27, 2018 is related specifically to item number 1 of this item. That's the periodic update. It's the periodic update. It's not all the items. Because
okay.
in here, you have the HCP, which will continue to work. We have the Capital Facilities Program, which continue to work. The Shoreline Management Program, we continue to work on that. The decision, again, of February 27, 2018 is related to item number 1.
but we cannot add anything to this until we get item number 1 completed, is that right?
That's the direction that you had, is that you will not add
Right.
any citizens initiative amendments.
Right.
That was the direction that you.
And
the
that
board
took
required.
place in the spring of 2018.
February 27, 2018.
Here, okay. And we're just out of compliance because we're past 16 now, right?
And we have addressed that with the Department of Commerce last year.
And that was part of the litigation involved with Commerce last
Yes,
year,
Yes. It was,
in which they
we-
withheld some funding.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't have questions, or, I mean, you want us to discuss
Yeah,
this
at
further?
this
or-
point, discuss it. This is your opportunity to provide your perspective, your opinions, how you like. But at some point, when you're ready, I will facilitate your decision-making process on this.
Would you like to decide right up front whether option 1 is an option or not, and then we can spend time on 2, or because maybe
Well-
1 is an option and we need to discuss all of them?
I think we need to go to option 2 because we can't do anything else from now on until we clarify that particular issue. Then we'll have to decide if option 2A or 2B, I mean, they're not listed that first motion, they're alternate optional
So
motion.
what I'm hearing, though, is option number 1 is not an option at this point?
Not for me, it's not an option because it locks us out for doing anything.
It locks out the community as
Yep,
well.
locks out the community.
Option one, an option for you?
Yeah, well, option one is an option for me. We have, and there are a lot of aspects to this, as we all know, but we're focused on process. And the board's direction in 2018 was to complete the comp plan update. I agreed with that. I campaigned on it. I said, we have got to complete this comp plan update because it's 2.5 years overdue. For a period of time, it made us, as you guys know, ineligible for grant monies. We ironed that out, but we're still overdue. You know, the comp plan update, people should be aware, includes the joint plans with the cities, which I've been told over and over and over again is the #1 thing impeding economic development in our county, is getting those joint plans done, especially with the city of Lacey. So for the focus on economic development, for the focus on being behind in our legal growth management requirements, I agree with what the board did last year, and it didn't. What I understood was the anticipation was we would get that done in 2018, and it didn't happen, which to me just makes it all the more imperative. We're that much later than we were when the board decided it a year ago. It was super important then that you basically cut off citizen initiatives. So it's even more important because we're now yet another year without having this done. So from a process perspective, the alternative is to open up the docket to citizen initiatives, whether we go this year or next year. That we heard from our CPED director is going to impede their ability to get this comp plan done this year because of workflow, and we'd have to open it up for a period of time. Then we'd have to consider all of those amendments. Then we'd be potentially adding work to the 2019 docket. To do this for 2020 is something we can consider later. The deadline's November. But if we were to do this now for 2019, it's already 6 months after the deadline. And we'd be squeezing work onto we're already into May. And I'm frankly embarrassed that Thurston County is 3 years behind in its comp plan update. That's not how we should be doing business. So for all of those reasons, option one is absolutely an option. I think it's the right option, and it's the one I'm going to vote for.
No, I get to weigh in.
Go ahead.
Where I am, in looking back February 27th of 2018, the then board that would chair Bud Blake, Commissioner Gary Edwards, and myself went through briefings, question and answer, discussions, repeated prior to that, to come to the decision to stop taking citizen initiated and work on the comp plan. Nothing further until the comp plan is done. It seemed, I think it was infinite wisdom back then. However, things have changed, and what I mean by that is, as Commissioner Menser just said, we didn't open it up to anybody, so the citizens were left out. But not only were the citizens left out, but they were left out of what is the county's plan for us in the future? When do we get to come in with any kind of a plan or an application? Because we just said, no, not till the comp plan is updated. I completely agree that it needs to be updated, and when I hear by the end of the year, that gives me hope, because we're only 7 months away from getting that done, even though it took us a year and some odd months to get here. We're that close, and I don't want to waylay that in any way, shape, or form. However, I think it's incumbent on the commission, on the board, to allow some hope for Thurston County citizens to say, here's the plan, we're going to finish the comp plan, yet we will open up a period for application for 2020. So they have plans from which to work. They can expect something. It gives them something that's plannable. So option number one is my least favorite, but option number 2B is my most favorite at this point. So rock, paper, scissors? That's not going to work. No.
Okay.
Do we need to have Josh come up at all? Do you have questions of Josh
he's
as
available
well?
to answer any questions you may have.
Because I have a question for you or two, and maybe my seatmates do. Go ahead.
Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, here to answer your questions.
If the board decides to open this up for citizen-initiated applications, but not till 2020, you may get one, you may get 50. I have no idea what you'll get. What kind of time does that take staff then just to receive the application, even though nothing's going to happen, for 7, 8 months, what kind of staff time does that take?
I think that the beginning part of that question is correct. The unknown is what we don't know. But each one of those applications that comes in, so if you'll recall the direction that was given by the board in 2018, it's still to receive those applications, but not to process those applications. So when an application comes in, we do our due diligence to reach out to the citizen, have a conversation with them to make sure that the application is complete, go through all that process. It does take staff time, but it's not as much as if we're going to process the whole thing and provide it to you for consideration or the Planning Commission. So option, I think if your question is correct, option 2B will add some amount of staff time, but I think we can mitigate that.
Okay. Did you have something?
Go ahead.
Ty.
Okay, mine's quick. Just want to clarify that I understood you in a previous, Q&A with us that I believe you said that getting the comp plan done this year was contingent on getting some immediate direction from us, like in the next week, that we would be able to continue to prioritize it and separate out. There's a process of separating out core elements of it, and getting those core elements done could get us back in compliance with commerce, et cetera. That's what I understood you to say.
Correct.
So by accepting either option 2A or 2B and opening this process back up, it's going to make it difficult for us to get that done this year.
Yeah, as in reference to the previous answer, the unknown is we don't know how many are going to come in. And if there's a lot of applications that we have to receive, it may impact that direction that get it done, periodic update in 2019.
And your group, when we get those and you ask us if we want to add them, we don't know anything about them, right? Your staff works up the details and sort of vets them and gives us kind of a summary, and sometimes Jeremy's worked up little flow charts and graphics on each proposal, and that's staff resources, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
But that wouldn't take place until 2020, or that's done right up front as soon as an application walks in the door?
Right as soon as an application walks, so there's a couple of different pieces that Commissioner Mincer mentioned. Right when the application walks in the door, we still will engage with citizens, but we can potentially mitigate how much processing we do with that initial receipt. But again, it goes back to the function of how many we get, because each one of those applications, we want to make sure that the citizens are served in a positive way.
Right, and just one quick follow-up. So when you say that can be mitigated by the amount of interaction you have with the public, each application comes in, would that be like a half an hour or an hour? And would you still, not knowing how many or how few we may receive, or you may receive, would you still be able to get the comp plan done by the end of the year? If that's the goal for me, or the focus.
I don't have an answer to that question without more information, which we won't receive until the future. How many applications come in, the complexity of the applications, how much time a citizen needs to be served to get that application correct, all of those are unknowns. But I can say that our goal is to complete the periodic update as directed by the Washington State Department of Commerce on the 6 chapters that they require, which is, I think, what Commissioner Mincer was referring to in the core elements. But I apologize that I can't answer a question without the information that would come in.
It's an unknown factor. You can't do the math. I got it. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, I guess from a factual standpoint, I would point out that last year we were told exactly the same thing, that we were going to get it done by the end of 2018, and that didn't happen. During that period of time, I've been involved with a legislative review of growth management. It's called the Ruckelshaus Plan, and during that time, it was pointed out that there was about 90 jurisdictions that were also out of compliance the same as we were. And in fact, that's why the Ruckelshaus Plan was put into place, was to see what the problem was, and that will be brought to the legislative, through the legislative process this year yet. Now, I know the legislature's out of session, but they have ongoing work sessions. That's going to be moving forward. So just the mere fact that we're 3 years out of date, I'm not too worried about it because 90 other jurisdictions are as well. And because of that, I'm feeling that we at least need to go to make a decision if it's going to be option 1 or option 2. And then at that point, should option 2 prevail, then we'll have to make a decision on option A or B of option 2. And is that kind of the sequence that might take place if this board made a decision now to go with option 1 or 2? Would that be the next step, providing 2 was selected?
Maybe, if I may, let me offer you a perspective. In paraphrasing what Josh was stating in terms of resources and perhaps the unknown, it's predicated on the board's decision that perhaps you may take today on this matter.
Yeah.
And looking into the 2020-2021 docket, at some point you need to open for citizens' initiative to come in as part of that process. And so bear that in mind, that when you consider next year the 2020-2021 docket, you need to open for citizens' initiatives to come your way, just to make sure that you have all the breadth of the needs the citizens have for you to be making an informed decision. So please keep that in perspective. The moving into the 2021 docket again, you will have to open for citizens' initiative at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe option 2, second option of option 2 gives you that option.
Can I go back and address what you were saying with Commissioner Edwards? And I understand, but I think we knew back in 2018 when the board made that decision, the decision that was made, nothing. Everything stops until the comp plan is done. We knew other counties were not in compliance, weren't we? Or didn't we? I would imagine we knew that at the time. We would have discussed that.
Yes.
Compared with other counties. And we were, okay, we're in good company. But to that end, if my neighbor's defaulting on his mortgage, I don't want to be in that kind of good company. But if we have been, well, we decided we wanted to have the comp plan done by 2018, and it didn't happen. Can you tell us why it didn't happen? Can you kind of explain the circumstances behind that?
Sure. So the comprehensive, this is where it gets a little bit confusing in terms of terminology. So the comprehensive plan update is the bigger picture scope. Within that is the comprehensive plan periodic update, which is the portion that's required by Washington State Department of Commerce. Included within that also, because of previous litigation, was a legislative action to update our critical areas ordinance as well, or to pass affirmation that our critical areas ordinance is up to date, the CAO. In 2017, the previous administration of what was then Resource Stewardship decided upon a strategy to package all of these things together into one big package to present to the Board of County Commissioners. So the critical areas update, legislative action, the entire comprehensive plan update, which included the comprehensive plan periodic update. And so when we came to the board in 2017, when this department came to the board in 2017, with all things being equal, their perspective was that we could move forward and complete it by the end of 2018. We got to a certain point in that February discussion of 2018 where it was becoming clear that we needed some guidance and direction to move forward and a pace that would complete it. Again, that's the whole big comprehensive plan update, the big, huge package that was presented by staff. As we got into the summer of 2018, there were pieces of that big package that were taking much longer than was expected originally. And so that is what impacted the timeline for the 2018 completion of the comprehensive plan update. Coming into the end of 2018, with me in the director role of what is now Community Planning and Economic Development, we decided to, what did we call it? Disengage, so separate those big pieces and focus on the things that we could get accomplished that needed to be accomplished by mandates legally or by the Washington State Department of Commerce. This board has already taken action in 2019 to affirm the critical areas ordinance meets codes and standards. We'll be receiving information from Department of Commerce, I hope, within this week that validates that affirmation. So that's one piece completed of that big package. And the second piece was to take some of the ones that were taking more time in terms of public comment and have those continuing, but to focus on the core items, those 6 chapters that Washington State Department of Commerce needs completed to take off on the matrix that Commerce provides, the section, the column that says overdue for our GMA compliance, our GMA status. That's the focus that the staff has presented to you on April 24th. That's what we believe that we can accomplish in 2019 with direction from the board, are those 6 chapters to relieve the overdue status from Commerce.
I've got 2 more questions and I'll back off.
Sorry, that was a lot.
That's okay. Did the BoCC get in your way that slowed you down in getting the comp plan done?
We serve at the direction of
Change there?
We serve at the direction of the board. We'll take whatever direction we're provided.
Yes, I know that. But did the BoCC, with change in direction, do this, do that, now there's a priority, did that waylay getting the comp plan done?
So when we talk about the bigger pieces that require more public input, all of that public input requires our staff time. And so our initial direction to do the big, huge plan with all of the stuff, which we didn't see had other complications in it, created an impact with an action that the commissioners provided to us, which changed some direction and elongated the time. But I wouldn't say that you got in the way, per se. You listened to public input and provided direction to staff.
I love and respect you, and you know that. So I'm putting you on the hot seat like that, Josh, and I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you.
And one final question, then I'll open it up here, and that is, on average, and I know it's not scientific, but on average, how many citizen-initiated apps do we take in a year? 1, 10? Is that even a fair question in your tenure to ask?
I would say 3 to 5.
Yeah, and it's a handful, no more than a handful. And last year, you entertained 4.
Okay.
And I think what the question that you were asking, Commissioner Hutchins, was, let's just be direct, it was related to the mineral lands and the conversation related last year. They took maybe 3 months to go through that process. There was key element which delayed the delivery of the comp plan. But also, I don't characterize in terms of whether the board was on the way to complete the work. I believe that's within the preview of the board to make sure that whatever actions you're taking are well vetted. So, and I believe that's part of the legislative process. Staff can come to you with a proposal in terms of a schedule, but during your legislative process, you're in the position to make sure that whatever decisions you make are sound and founded. And I believe that's what you did.
I believe so too, but my concern is we set you off to go do work, and then we say, oh, something glittery over here, work on that now. Oh, there's a squirrel running over there, do that now.
Well, then it's our duty to let you know the impacts of the decisions.
And I'm always asking, are we getting in your way, or what can I do to make your job easier?
I like the county manager's answer.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for explaining the opening it up to the citizens so they have something that's predictable, something they can plan on.
And if I may, I know that there's a lot of representation here, as you see, and as you receive many, many comments. We have received from staff many, many comments related to the North Point, which is one of the items included. And I'd like to probably emphasize to the board, the decision you make today is not on that particular item. The decision that you have is on the process.
Right.
Whether you like to open up the docket or not. If you do open up the preliminary docket, you like to do it in 2019 or 2020. That is the question before you.
I'm going to go here first, then I'll get you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so just a couple things. We've been focused on the number 1 on the docket, the comp plan update item, but that's not the only, like the Shoreline Master Program there, number 3. I'm correct that that's a legal requirement that the county do under growth management, item number 3?
Yes, we're past due on the Shoreline Master Program
And
as well.
how past due are we?
That's a good question. I believe it's 2016, but I need to check with staff.
I think it's actually longer than that, but
Okay.
it's something, it's a fair bit of time. And the Habitat Conservation Program, that's been worked on for years, right?
Yes.
Okay. And is your department at full staff?
No.
And then if we were to open the docket to add citizen initiatives, we're already at I guess what I want to point out is that if the board had not directed staff in February 27th, 2018, to not take any citizen initiative, just a normal year, we're taking them, we would have stopped taking them in November for this docket.
So we would have collected them up to November 15th, 2018, and then begun the processing of those thereafter.
Okay, so I just want to point out that option 2A is not only taking applications late, 6 months late, than a normal deadline. It's on top of that, doing that in the face of previous board direction not to take any at all. So it's sort of a double layer of reversing prior board process and board protocol. Is that, I mean, that's correct, right?
It depends on, so yes, I see your perspective. We will receive applications all year up to November 15th. It's the processing that's
last year, November 15th.
Yeah.
I'm good. Go ahead, Joe. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. When this new board, laid out by the chair, came in January of 2017, there'd been kind of a prior arrangement that the cost of the HCP program for the pocket gopher was going to be about $150 million. That was kind of the agreed upon amount. We had asked you to spend a lot of time in coming up with an alternative plan, which you later submitted in about July of 2018.
Correct.
And it's about a $50 million plan that it's going to cost the taxpayers. So I think you put in a lot of time on that particular planning adjustment, if you will. So I think we're probably guilty of delaying you to get that project done by 2018. So when we refer back to did we cause you a problem, I think the board probably did, because we wanted to alleviate that particular problem. Although we've not heard back from the Department of Interior yet on whether or not they're going to okay that plan. Is that correct?
We're still in process with the federal government.
Okay. And at this point, I really believe that we're really talking about option 1 and 2, not of 2A or 2B. So I'm ready to move myself towards option 2 and then have a further discussion on what that means.
Whether 2A or 2B?
That's right.
And where are you?
I'm ready to
with the
vote.
options.
I prefer option 1.
And I'm in option 2, as I said before, with opening up 2B. is
So,
where I am.
Do you need
so
a,
we have option 1, you have option 2, how about you?
and option 2?
So option 2, so then the next discussion will be within the option 2, what motion would you like to entertain?
2A or 2B.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. I'll make a motion for 2A, but it doesn't sound like I'm going to get very far in that regard. But I am very concerned about economic development, and not just the North. It would not be just North Point. It would be any other constituents that might have a economic development plan to present to us, and yet to be determined, because we don't know if there's others. Is that right?
Well,
I mean, we just have the one so far,
Well, it's
but
not
if we open it up for 2 months or 3 months, I think we made a mistake, myself, when we locked everybody out and didn't put a deadline on 2018 when we said, okay, we'll give you, we won't accept anything until the end of 2018. We didn't do that. We just left it open. So if we were to go well, had we stuck with option one, we would not be accepting anything until we got everything done on the proposed projects here, which I think is not responsible.
Just item one, just item one.
Yeah.
Just one, yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to opt to accept for that period of time, which is item 2A, because we don't have to work on that until we get farther down the road. We're not locked into it, we're just accepting it. And categorizing those, if you will, or prioritizing those, if you will. And if we get 10 proposals, I'm sure we're not going to get very far. But if we only get 1 or 2, maybe we will. So I would opt for 2A and see where that takes us. Where's 2A
Okay.
take us?
Between A and B, I would have to opt for 2B.
You want to opine on that at all? Or-
I already made my point. I mean, 2A is not only, it's not only taking late applications 6 months late, it's doing that in the face of previous board direction that I supported. And I hate to point to Josh, but I'm relying on what he's telling me that by opening that docket and having 2019 eligible projects is only going to delay our ability to get our core requirements done. My responsibility as commissioner is meeting the core legal requirements this county has to face from state government. We're behind. We've lost grant money already. We've got really important issues that need to be addressed in the comp plan, in the shoreline master program, in the habitat conservation plan, in the joint plans, which is a piece of the comp plan. Those are the highest priorities. You talk to anyone from the city of Lacey about what the top priority is for business development in this community is, it's the joint plan so that we can get businesses permitted and projects. That is the #1 priority. And to think otherwise flies in the face of fact. So that's my priority.
So 2B?
Yes.
Okay, I guess when we say that we're going to let somebody in at the head of the line, I don't think that's necessarily true. And the reason for that is we kept them from getting in line during this stop application process of February of 2018, thinking we were going to get it done by the end of 2018, which we did not. So nobody had an option to get in line because we told them, well, the line's closed. You can't get in line. So that being what it is, I don't think we're being unfair if we open it up to everybody, not one, but all comers for a period of time. And when it comes to the out of compliance, I've made mention before that there are many other jurisdictions. I mentioned the number 90, and people might think, well, holy mackerel, there's only 36 counties or something like that. So it's municipalities as well as counties and port authorities, other entities that are affected by the Growth Management Act. So that's kind of why I'm looking at it as a fairness issue. It wasn't, nobody could apply because we had a stop work order in place, if you will. So that's why I'm going to the 2A. So now we can make, I guess we can make a decision, whatever you have to say.
I've got agreement on both sides, the things that I'm concerned with. But again, this being about process and equity and fairness, I opt for 2B. Finish the comp plan, get us back in compliance with Commerce, and help other jurisdictions get some grant money, whatever we get from that. But also provide an avenue for the citizens. If they want a citizen-initiated application, they come in, open, at least let them plan, it's coming. But nothing's going to happen until 2020.
Could I make one more little
argument? One more, and then we're going to go ahead and vote.
One more little argument.
Or give direction.
Regardless, regardless of what happens, we're trying to follow the Growth Management Act. And whether or not you agree with the Growth Management Act or not, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like whether you agree the pocket gopher is a problem or not, we have to follow the law. Under growth management, there are processes put in place to follow. And so if a particular activity is not likely to be accepted or is resisted by the community, and it can be shown that that activity doesn't fit within the guidelines of growth management, we're still expected to go through growth management. So I'm not saying that's probably going to sway either of my seatmates one way or the other, but I'm going to stick with A just because I think it's the more fair process.
Okay.
Okay.
So, do you want to make a motion?
Is that how we need to do this?
Yes, because you need to take a formal action rescinding
The previous board
decision
decision.
of February 27, 2018. And so I will probably like to hear the.
Are you going to entertain a motion on
What I'm hearing is
two,
the
option two?
Option 2B.
Okay.
The alternate option, that's the majority of the board.
So it sounds like there's no point in spinning our wheels, so I'll let one of my seatmates make a motion. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, it feels a little weird to make a motion to rescind the board's direction when that's not my preference, but given where we're at procedurally, I will move to rescind the board's 2/27/2018 direction to direct staff to suspend the, quote from previous direction, suspend the application period for new comprehensive plan amendments until the completion of the comprehensive plan periodic update. And 2, set a deadline and schedule for receiving amendment applications for the 2020 preliminary docket as required by Thurston County Code 205020B3.
And I'll second that. Any discussion, further discussion? It's been moved and seconded.
Yes.
For 2B.
Under 2.05.020B3, that is going to allow people to get in the 2020 line. Is that correct?
That's the action, yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No, just based on the previous vote and the options that we have before the board, I'm supporting this motion.
Okay, been moved and seconded and discussed. All in favor of adopting 2B as the alternate optional second motion to this? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries.
And now that that decision has been made, Commissioners, I would recommend for you to set the deadline of receiving applications for the 2020 docket for November 15, 2019.
Thank you.
At this point?
That's already in the, that's not in the code section?
No, this is a date that you set.
Okay, now I do have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And my question is, you're asking us to make that decision right now?
Well, yes, you said in the time in which you will be receiving applications for the 2020 docket based on the decision that you just made.
When we open it, and it closes automatically around in November?
So right now, you just open it.
Right.
With your actions. Do you like to set as to when you're going to be stopping receiving applications for the 2020 docket? That's the question.
Right. I thought that had already
I thought it
established
was
in
already in
November.
place too, yeah.
Historically, you've been.
Normal process. Right.
Please.
Historically, the normal process to the county manager's statement
That's
is
what I'm recommend just to make sure there's a normal process November 15,
November 15.
2019.
Right. Where it's a deadline for accepting apps. Okay.
Is that a date that works well for your department, Josh?
let me look at staff real quick.
If they're here.
They might have left.
Is that the appropriate date?
Yes, that's the date that we've used.
Mike.
That's what you-
Thank you.
Yes.
And who might you be?
I'm Cindy Wilson. I'm the manager of the community planning section.
Thank you, Cindy.
Do you need a motion on that particular?
No.
Okay.
Just direction, yeah, November 15th.
Okay.
You all right? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Just wait a couple minutes until.
Next is the Henderson Inlet Shellfish Closure Response Plan.
You know, I might mention to those in the audience that we're still going to be covering a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need to leave.
and I respect each of your positions. Thank you. Good, honest discussion.
So the next item that is before you is you'd received a briefing on April 24th related to the inlet, Henderson Inlet Shellfish Closure Response Plan. At that point, you had a discussion. And just to give you a matter of background, in the state law, RCW 9072045 states that in case of water quality degradation due to an ongoing non-point sources of pollution, they will affect the recreation of commercial shellfish. The legislative authority has to approve a closure response plan. You had a briefing that this closure response plan had three main strategies, which is prevent the sources of water pollution, but this goal means that the partners will proactively pursue risk reduction strategies to address potential pollution sources. Strategy number 2, identified resources of water pollution, means that partners will implement strategies that aid in locating and quantifying existing pollution sources. Strategy 3, correct sources of water pollution. It means actions will be taken to rectify pollution sources once they have been found. We had a discussion that perhaps what will be the fiscal and financial obligations the county will have for you to consider approving this plan. There is not really any financial plans as I read the plan. And for your consideration is approving this plan. And also this plan has been recommended for your approval by the Nisqually Reach and Henderson Inlet Shellfish Protection District combined with the Stakeholders Advisory Committee. That's a mouthful. Which represents from the Nisqually Reach Shellfish Industry, the Henderson Inlet resident is a resident, and Nisqually Indian Tribe, the City of Lacey, and an advisory board. So also the Washington State Department of Health was present, the Washington State Department of Ecology was present, the Thurston Conservation District, and the Thurston County Environmental Health. So last time when you asked me what I recommend, I did have a chance to review the plan, and my recommendation is for you to go ahead and approve the plan as presented to you.
Option number 1. Option number 1. In the briefing, yeah. We'll just take a minute to read this plan real quick, if you don't mind.
Do we need a formal AIS for this? Do you know?
I'm looking for option number 1. Is it listed as option number 1?
On the
I'm
plan.
sorry, yeah, right here on the very back page. 1 and 2.
Okay, let me get there. Yep, got it. What's the cost going to be to the taxpayers additional to what we're doing today?
The plan outlines the opportunity to partner to secure grants because, and again, there is not a financial obligation to the county related to approving this plan.
Okay, so we're not going to be assessing any monetary figure to individual property owners within the Henderson watershed above and beyond what they're already doing today?
No, that is not the intent of this plan.
Okay.
Any comments or questions?
I hesitate to ask this only because I feel like I might have asked it at the last briefing, and I hate to repeat myself, but I'm just not remembering. When we say the objective is control sources and the example of a task is repair problematic septic systems, what does that mean? Who's doing that and by what mechanisms?
I should probably answer this one.
Is this still Art's story?
Still me. So, good morning. I'm Art Starry, the Environmental Health Division Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And to get to Commissioner Mentzer's question, the plan recommends that we go forth and try to identify pollution sources, in particular for Dobbs and Fleming Creek, which seems to be the chief contributors to the downgrade. And and one of the things we'll do is evaluate areas where there are septic systems, and if the water quality problems seem to be related to septic systems, then we will go and evaluate individual systems, and if they're failing, we will see that they get corrected. That's part of our mission, that's our obligation under state law, that's what we plan to do. One of the things that we are doing is pursuing funding. There's the camping club that's out there that seems to be a key source of water quality problems.
Dobbs Creek, is that Dobbs Creek?
The one at Dobbs Creek,
Okay.
the camping club. And we are pursuing, actually have received an offer for grant funding to help plan for a correction of that. So that's one of the things we're continuing to work on. So not only are we trying to identify the problems, but we are trying to provide resources to fix them. And we also have low interest loan programs that are available through another agency that we offer folks. So we're really hard to try to make things as manageable as possible for people who have failing septic systems, because repairs can be really expensive.
So this falls within your staffing?
Yeah, this is when the health department's role. We're the septic system experts, and we have the regulatory authority under the Board of Health for the county, and so this would be our purview. And Josh has something to say.
Thanks, Art. So it is within the actions or within public health. The reason CPAD is presenting this to you is that we coordinate that shellfish committee, that the volunteer group that has come together with this plan. So I appreciate Art's highly skilled specifics on the actions. The direction that's up before you today is to set that baseline so that we can continue moving forward. This is a requirement by the State Department of Health that you approve the shellfish protection closure plan that this committee has come up with, and all of those actions that Art talked about follow on after that baseline. And then one of the questions I had also in regards to the county manager's thought earlier, I wanted to make sure that approval of this plan doesn't have an immediate financial impact on the county. It does not. It has an option to then apply for grants based on the actions that are within the plan and partnership and coordination. So again, my recommendation is approval of the plan.
And this, by approving this, it keeps us in good graces with those that might have the purse, so to speak. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, allow you access for additional grant funding sources. That is really what the plan is.
Yeah, so having a plan that you approve, that is recognized by the State Department of Health, does put us in better standing for applying for grants. And I think the fact that they knew that we were working on some of this stuff has already paid dividends in that respect.
Is there a time frame associated with this plan? I mean, once we approve this plan, does it sunset in a year, in 5 years, 10 years? I mean, the Henderson shellfish septic, we did something, we approved increased some rates, approved some things. That was like for 10 years, I think, wasn't it?
So the Henderson program was reenacted for 10 years. It expires at the end of 2017, unless you choose to reenact it or your successors choose to reenact it.
2017?
2027, excuse me.
Okay.
I got 27 that's going on in my head.
And that's the one we reauthorized.
That's when you reauthorize. It has a small amount of funding besides evaluating septic systems, and it has a small amount of funding to evaluate water quality issues, something called pollution identification and correction. So that's in there. But to get to your other questions, there is no additional demand on county staff. However, because we realized that this was coming and we brought that to your attention, we were able to apply for funding to help basically fund parts of this plan. So that pollution identification correction, the work on the camping club and in the one stretch of the stream where failing septic systems seem to be a problem, we're already starting to do that. So we're bringing on extra work, but it's been funded through grants that we've been able to receive.
So once this plan is approved by the board, how long does it last?
So this is an interim plan. It's for 2 years to run it through the end of 2020. One of the things that the committee recommends that's in the plan is to update the entire work plan. This was done to have an expedient or a quick response to the downgrade. We wanted to have, or the committee wanted, I say we, but because I've been attending a lot of their meetings, but it's them, they wanted to have a quick response. To update the entire work plan will take more time, so that's one of the recommendations, is that the advisory committee continue to work to update the entire plan.
Okay,
But that's something that they would be planning to do.
Anything else? All right, so you need a thumbs up
Yeah,
Is that what we need?
for option number 1?
Yeah, we will bring a formal AIS for you to formally approve the fund at board meeting.
Okay.
So,
Do we need to have a public hearing on that if we
No.
do that?
This is Art. I've been communicating with with our prosecutors. I don't think you need a hearing, but whether it's a letter or it's something else, they'll tell us.
Okay.
Do you want to see 3 thumbs? I think you.
Right now, you want to see 3
I
thumbs?
think you got them. Okay.
So you will see an agenda item on your upcoming board meeting.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
And you'll remind us of this
Good
discussion,
man.
right?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, Art. Always good to see you.
Good to be seeing you, Art.
Oh, that's right, just a little more. Treatment sales tax, yay.
The next item on your agenda is related to a briefing that you received on May 2nd, where Carrie Hannon provided to you the results of the community grants related to the treatment sales tax. In this attached to your packet, you have this spreadsheet. And you had a briefing, and at some point the board needs to have a formal action awarding those grants. So we would like to seek your direction, whether you'd like to approve the top 3, highlighted in kind of greenish, or you would like to go with the committee recommendations, which includes the project 2 lines below the cutoff line.
Well, when you say approves that,
Go ahead.
when you say approve that, there's no financial commitment there, is there?
On this, you are awarding.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
sending.
no, but I mean on this bottom one down here.
No, as you may recall on the briefing, you were not here.
Ah,
Okay, maybe that's why I
Was he
don't
here?
recall.
Were you here?
I think I was.
So,
But
let
Yeah,
me-
he
let me-
was.
let me-
of course
I
he was.
remember a
Of course
robust
he was.
discussion about
Maybe
that.
ask Carrie to come, but let me reframe the conversation. So on a yearly basis, you award out of the treatment sales tax $250,000 in community grants. And you have a committee which review the applications. And as a result of the committee's reviews, they have moved forward on recommending for you to consider. To consider funding for the Catholic Community Services, Capital Clubhouse, Capital Recovery Center, Family Support Center of South Sound. But in addition to that, the committee decided to submit the recommendation to also fund the Community Action Council of Lewis Mason and Thurston County, which is, by the score, is below the cutoff line. If the board decides to go with the committee's recommendation, then you will be in the position to reduce the amount of allocation or grant awarded to the top 3 outfits.
right.
So those are the decisions that we have for you.
And
You recall now.
I do recall that discussion, and I think the concern was that we dropped down below the points that were recognized here, the 81s and above, to a 78 to recommend something. And that's what I'm kind of confused. If we do this, we're only really recommending the top 3, aren't we?
And on the briefing, I've recommended the board to consider awarding only the top three.
The top three, that's what I'm,
Yeah, that's this one.
that's why.
And I think we chatted about that, about skipping over 3 other viable community organizations to get to the 4th one down from the white number, the white boxes. And that just didn't seem right to me, even though I love every one of these joints. They do great stuff for the community. I can't justify myself jumping down, passing 3 over for that. I just can't do that. Okay. So go ahead.
Maybe just one other topic of conversation is we're looking into making an adjustment. I think we're going to have a hearing today about a potential adjustment dealing with the homeless situation. One of my big concerns is as we move forward with whatever we decide to vote on, or how that vote comes out, that we seem to never have enough money to, in my estimation, do it right. Because dealing with this program, the whole homeless thing, I think we need to have some revenue in there for drug treatment and mental health treatment, which we never seem to have. So is there any possibility that, do we need to do this right now? Because if we might even want to rethink, put kind of everything on pause, if you will, because we're not going to fix this whole homeless thing if we don't address some dollars towards drug addiction and mental well-being of the folks.
You do.
Okay, we're going to have
And
that.
you do under the same program, because the treatment sales tax
Yes.
addresses mainly what you stated.
Yeah, but is it enough is what I'm getting
And this
at.
is just a small portion that you set aside for community grants.
Okay.
So maybe Kerry can elaborate a little bit more. The other programs, the TST funds, which I believe addresses your concerns.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Hennon. I manage the treatment sales tax for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. So I'll give kind of a 2-part answer. So one, I think these programs actually, whether directly or indirectly, do support the county's response to issues of homelessness. So Catholic Community Services, that program, Drexel House 2, serves formerly homeless veterans with the goal of engaging them in treatment. I think the argument can be made if they are not engaged in treatment, they are more likely to not be stable, to become homeless again, to not be stabilized in their housing placement and become homeless again. Similarly, Family Support Center operates Pear Blossom Place, so this is families residing in shelter, making sure they are connected to treatment, so I'd say sort of same argument. But then, of course, the county manager is correct. There are other TST investments that kind of more directly support housing programs. We fund 2 related housing programs that place people largely in clean and sober housing. One is targeted at people releasing from the jail, and one is more generally serving people in other TST-funded programs. And that's a pretty big investment in housing that TST makes separately. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's good enough. I'm good with it.
But I agree with you. There's never enough money, and there never will be.
Yeah.
Nope, you ready to go? Okay, so you need a thumbs up. We need a decision.
And we'll bring an AIS because you need to take a formal action at a board meeting.
Get us
awarding
monies
those
and
grants.
such, yeah, okay.
Top 3.
Top 3.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I want to back up real quick. Regarding the number 1 comprehensive plan update, is there going to be like a press release going out then, letting people know it's open again for 2020?
Just send a message off to CPED to ask about that and how we want to advertise that. So
Okay.
yes.
And regarding the Henderson, do we need to advertise that at all, put word out?
It's within your purview, whatever you like to do.
Well, that's my seat message just came up in my head.
Well, it's
The inlet shellfish closure response plan.
It's an important water quality issue. I'm all for it.
Put it out to the public.
Just put out to the public that we approved a emergency response plan.
Sure.
Or a closure response plan. Or look for it online if they have any interest. I'm sure quite a few people have interest in it.
You provided direction to add an item to your upcoming board agenda.
Okay, so you're saying
Let's wait,
we're
then-
premature,
That
is
is
that?
when you formally approve the.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good enough.
Thank you, sir. So now we're at the port security grant.
This is a follow-up briefing you received last week where the Sheriff's Office is planning to apply for a port security grant to replace the SWAT vehicle. I don't have all the terminology that he used, but it's a cat, so forgive me.
Yeah.
He does.
I Googled MRAP last night
So did you?
to see what it was, and then Googled APV, Armored Protective Vehicle. They look the same to me, but I'm sure they're not.
One's more heavy duty, I think. Okay.
It
So
all
with-
looks like tanks.
Yeah, it looked like,
Looked like Venezuela to me.
it didn't look like anything I really want to see rolling through the downtown Olympia.
On regular patrol.
But yeah, but the sheriff said that there's a need for it, so I guess I have to defer to his expertise.
I guess just
Your sheriff.
I would put a plug in for the sheriff, he's not here, is this is all about protecting our law enforcement officers when they're doing very difficult things, and so that's why I'm in favor of it.
How often did you have to deploy something like that on a
Oh, unfortunately, more than we'd like, but I bet you probably 20 times a year.
Really? Give me an example of what
Well,
makes
Tell us
you
a war story.
Yeah.
sometimes,
I've never seen one of these in town, so
well, what it is
And you shouldn't.
when we end up with a barricaded suspect, for an example, maybe he has a hostage, law enforcement then just can't walk up to the door, you know, and do business because these people aren't normal, they're not stable.
Right.
So we do everything we can to protect the officers and at the same time be able to rescue a potential victim, if you will. And boy, you know, we often hear about arrests. You know, they aren't very pretty. When somebody does not want to go to jail, for whatever the reason, it becomes quite a confrontational situation. Some resort to deadly force, others just kick and bite, you know, but anyway you look at it, it isn't pretty. And what this is strictly a tool that is available for officers to be conducting those very dangerous situations in the safest manner possible. There's really not a safe way to do it, but this is the safer way than just driving up in your patrol car and getting out and walking up to the front door. So,
And if you just- go
I
ahead.
mean, I could give you a lot of war stories.
Yeah, well,
but
that sounds
mean,
important. I mean, the only thing that caught my attention is using it. I know they're trying to connect it to port security, but I've seen behavior of port protesters that was inappropriate and should and did result in their arrest. But I've never seen any behavior of port protesters that I would be expecting to see a vehicle like this rolling through. But maybe things are escalating to a point where that would be something that could happen.
I would say that's not likely, you know, that you would see it in that situation. But it's a revenue source they've made available to us to protect officers.
No, there is some financial considerations that you need to.
I know, we have to come up with
And-
$25,000 a year or
Revenues, what you see, the
something.
financial considerations
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
need to-
there's a financial impact to us, but it's worth it for the safety of the officers, in my estimation.
And the tie to the port is only because it's a port grant.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Well, I mean, it
He's not
could be
saying-
utilized there.
Well, it could be, yeah, but it's not for the port.
So I'm not sure why the title is what it is, but it would be money if the sheriff is successful, because remember, it's a competitive grant. So they want to make application for this grant. If they are successful, it would come to us to buy this vehicle.
And one more thing about the vehicle, as I recall the sheriff saying, is, well, number one, I would do everything I can to protect our county employees, and I'm talking about the sheriff department, and they protect the other officers as well, but it has a trap door underneath. Didn't it have a rescue door?
That's right, it's got a
underneath?
rescue door.
So when we see on the video, oh, shots fired, citizens are down. And yet they're taking, the bad guy is shooting, and the cops can't go in and rescue someone, but they can drive right in, be protected, and pick up the victim and get them the heck out of harm's way. So it's for the citizens, really, for their safety as well.
It's for that worst-case
Oh,
scenario
my
that
gosh,
could
yeah.
develop, that we hope never
Hey,
develops.
goosebumps right now.
But it's
Think
kind of
about
like,
that.
it's kind of like a fire truck, if you will. I mean, we hope nobody's house burns down, but we have a fire truck just in case to deal with that particular issue.
Yeah.
And that's what this is really all about, is safety. And it's a pretty small investment. I believe it's probably coming through Homeland Security, through the port.
Says so, yeah.
Homeland Security.
Yeah,
Yep.
because for that worst situation.
It is the high risk.
Yeah, it's a
Not
high
anything
risk.
low risk, it's gonna be high risk.
Yeah.
We need this for protection.
Yep.
So what I'm really looking for from the board is that commitment that we would increase the sheriff's budget in the future to pay for the increase in reserve money.
The ER&R.
To eventually replace it, and the maintenance of the vehicle.
And I think that was about 25,000 a year.
Roughly
if I remember
25,000 a
right.
year
Yeah.
is what I've been told.
And I'm in favor of it.
So, and remember you had an item that you review on the agenda for this coming Tuesday, next Tuesday.
So we will take those off, because both of those, the first one, the
use
the
of
grant
ER&R.
itself does not need to come through the EIS. And the second one, the ER&R, is premature. We
Okay.
would, and we wouldn't need to run it past the board in its
Perfect.
form.
So,
So those both come off.
Because the strategy behind to mitigate for the match requirements is to use some of the funding
ER&R.
they have already have accumulated on the ER&R.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So if
But
they're
it's good to know that you
successful
don't
in the
need-
grant, then we just shift that. It's a internal function within
So
central
we'll
services.
take those three items out of the agenda next week.
Right, so the one that is still on that we don't have an answer to yet is the JAG.
JAG, okay.
Right, we're waiting on Elizabeth.
But that doesn't require a formal action by the board, just because.
Okay.
Oh, you want to do that?
I'm not quite certain of that.
Arm wrestle,
yet.
arm wrestle.
I'm working with, let's work with Elizabeth.
Yet to be
Vote.
determined.
Yes.
And you're okay with that? Okay.
Okay, we're good to go.
Oh, boy, okay. Do you have any legislative update?
No,
Yay.
but you will have one next week with Deborah
Deborah?
Magia is going to be coming and give you a lessons learned from the past legislative session. And then it will give you the opportunity to personally thank her for the great work that she has done for the county in this legislative session. because
We need to
she-
find out what her favorite flavor of pie or cake is.
Roses or
And
something.
Give her something. This was monumental what she did, I think, really for the county.
I just wrote letters to the LD 22 delegation, as well as Andrew Barkus, who I know worked on transportation and housing, and just thanked them for every single piece. I mean, Iron
That's
City
good.
Transit
That's
did
a nice
really well.
touch.
Tenino did really well. The as a husband of a teacher and a father of schools, they went to bat for the Olympia School District.
Yep.
Thurston County. So I just ticked through all the different pieces of what, and salmon recovery. Salmon recovery was slashed and then got restored. It's not where it needs to be, but the cuts got undone during the final budget negotiations. So I thank those four for those pieces of work.
And I recommend for the other two commissions do the same.
I'm happy now.
I think it is-
Well, a lot of times we
It's
do a
proper.
joint letter. I'd still ask that we do a joint letter recognizing
Yeah,
everything too.
we'll prepare a joint, do you mind
Okay.
sharing your letter? And then
Sure, Tom
I will
Cena's got
prepare
it.
a joint letter.
Okay.
I think that's great. I think we owe a special thanks to Lori Dolan and Beth
And Dolio.
For their work. They championed
Oh, my
getting
gosh.
those impact fees in
Yeah.
at the appropriate level. So
Yeah.
that was huge.
Will you give Kelly also, Thomasina, the names and addresses where to send it to? Thank you.
No, I'm going to prepare a joint letter.
I got that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got that.
No, so we'll send that on from the office.
Hey, let's do some vaping discussion. Come on up.
You have less than 10 minutes.
Okay. And are you going to introduce it, or do you want me to just go right into it?
I'll introduce it.
Do they have hard copies? Do they need hard
No,
copies?
I don't think so.
No.
So there was a scheduler briefing back in April, I believe, right? Yeah, and we didn't quite have a quorum. So, but we ended up having a meeting, so I asked his staff to come back and give you a briefing.
I apologize for
of
having
this-
no
of
quorum
this
that day.
issue.
I must have been part of it.
And at some point, probably is going to be asking for your direction,
Thank you, sir.
but perhaps not necessarily today.
Just do it. Just do it. Oh, good. There's just option 1, 2, and 3, and no 2A and 2B. I'm gonna dream of that tonight.
I know.
Oh, my goodness. Rock and roll. Here we go.
Okay,
Hey,
so I'm
thank
Kateri
you.
Wimsett from Public Health. Thanks for letting me come back today. So in front of you, there's 3 items. One is the briefing form. Behind that is the Washington State Department of Health kind of overview of what other counties have done in the state of Washington. Last spring, when you approved the no smoking, no vaping rules for county parks, you gave us direction at that time to begin researching and developing options for further discussion with you about ways we could strengthen the smoking in public places law, or possibly by including vaping. So we spoke to all 10 counties that have passed and implemented vaping in public places regulations. We've also spoken to 2 more, that Skagit, who just recently passed some regulations last month, and Jefferson, who's in a similar situation as Thurston, who is considering moving forward on drafting an ordinance on this issue. Just go through the options real quick for you, but I know we're really pressed for time, so stop me and ask me whatever you need to. There's 3 options in front of you. The first one's to authorize staff to prepare a vaping in public places local policy to strengthen smoking in public places laws in our community. This option supports the 2019-2020 Thurston County Strategic Plan, Initiative 1, which is improving health outcomes for all, along with the short-term strategy to prevent tobacco and vaping use in Thurston County by focusing on youth and areas which the county and the Board of Health can impact. And this is that way you can impact. Some pros about doing this. First of all, doing this protects public health from secondhand vapor exposure. Vapes produce an aerosol by heating a liquid that usually contains nicotine, flavorings, and other chemicals that are then inhaled and exhaled by the person using it. The aerosol is not water vapor. It contains harmful and potentially harmful substances such as nicotine, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead, and diacetyl, which is a chemical flavoring which has been linked to serious lung disease. A recent kind of overview of the evidence by the National Academy of Engineering, Science, and Medicine came out with some conclusive standpoints, and one of theirs was, quote, that we know that vape use increases airborne concentrations of particulates and nicotine in indoor environments, and additionally, in addition to nicotine, most vape products, quote, contain and emit numerous potentially toxic substances. Another reason for considering this is it also supports healthy behavior, not smoking or vaping, as the norm in public places. And I think this is really important to me as a prevention specialist. Our numbers of youth that are vaping are growing very, very quickly, not just here in Thurston County, but around the state and the nation. Our 2016 data showed that 23% of Thurston County 12th graders were vaping 30-day use, so regular use. Now, in 2018, those numbers have grown to 32% in 2 years. And so we know that teens who vape are more likely to start smoking. And we also know teens who start vaping are exposed to nicotine, which is the drug that makes cigarettes addictive. And so what happens is their brains are still growing and they get exposed to a drug like nicotine, and it quickly leads them to addiction. And so vaping products are actually very cool, and they really appeal to youth. Their design, their flavors, there's over 8,000 flavors on the market. Their product names and their smell are all directly marketed to youth. Another reason for consideration is that really this affirms this idea that clean air is the standard in public places and where the public gathers. In fact, a 2017 national survey concluded that about 82% of adults strongly or somewhat strongly oppose the use of vapor products in indoor public places. Finally, this reinforces that vaping is an unhealthy behavior and also reflects the county vision that Thurston County is a vibrant community, ensuring the health, safety, and well-being of generations to live, work, and play. Some kind of cons about doing this: it does increase staff time for community education, although, so that you know, specifically, we do have funding from the state tobacco funding program for that. Additionally, there's a cost for business signage, which could also be paid for by using the same tobacco funds that are provided to public health. Affected parties, who would this concern, or who would be affected by it? Of course, the public, restaurants and other public places owners and building owners and managers, as defined by the Washington State Smoking in Public Places Law, along with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services staff, particularly those in environmental health, food, and environmental services staff. They do the regulation of these kind of complaint calls on a regular basis with the regular Smoking in Public Places Law. Option 2 is kind of an addition. So it's option 1 plus. And so what we're asking in option 2 is that, for your consideration, is possibly applying these restrictions to hookah and other devices that involve.
Okay, what's that?
Oh, let's talk about hookah. Hookahs are water pipes. And so they are those kind of old, you may have seen the pictures of them, they have a long tube, and there's like a watery substance. And they're used to smoke specially made tobacco that's flavored. Oftentimes people think they're less harmful because of the water section of the pipe that goes through that. But actually hookah smoking has many of the same health risks as tobacco smoking. And so what happens, because the way it's used, people will sit around and smoke hookah together, sometimes for a couple hours. You'll sit around a table, you'll pass the hookah pipe around and smoke it together. Because of that, they absorb more of the toxic substances that are in the smoke.
There's hookah lounges, aren't there?
Yes, there sure are.
Yeah.
And that's what this would affect. There's also a lot of new forms of hookah.
That would prohibit.
It would prohibit indoor, yes.
So it would prohibit those lounges, they have the specific business with this.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a lot of new forms of hookah as well. So there's the steam stones. And so it's not a charcoal base, it's a steam stone, but it really has to do with kind of reducing secondhand smoke exposure from hookahs for the public and for non-smokers. It contains smoke from tobacco as well as smoke from the heating source, which typically is charcoal, and impacts the health of the user and those that are working there who are exposed to the smoke. So we know that secondhand smoke from hookahs can be a health risk for non-smokers, and this has been a past issue that Thurston County Environmental Health has had to deal with complaints. And so it was their ask for us to ask for this consideration with this second piece. The cons for this one is very similar. A little bit more description would be needed to educate and do signage around that in order to inform the community about the full range of products that are involved in the new rule. And the affected parties would be the same, and then of course impacted anyone who owned and managed a hookah establishment. Our staff recommends option 1 or option 2, but there is an option 3, and option 3 is to maintain the current status. So if you maintain the current status, there's no cost to our programs other than continuing to have the normal levels of complaints about secondhand smoke and vaping, and that we can't do anything about. And then the cons of it is the majority of Thurston County residents don't vape or use substances consumed through smoke, vapor, or other inhalation methods. And they continually be exposed to these emissions in public places, along with the fact that an absence of a policy that expresses a community norm against vaping in public places really makes prevention efforts towards secondhand smoke or secondhand exposures and youth initiation use much more difficult.
Commissioner Edwards.
Okay. Is hookah?
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 Yeah.
Hookah? Is hookah a cultural thing from
It can
the
be.
Middle East or something? I mean, where people might go to a restaurant that's a Middle East restaurant or something and sit around and do this? Is that where we're starting to infringe on culture, religion? I don't know. Is it?
Good question.
I don't know.
San Francisco, one of our everybody's favorite restaurant is in Haight-Ashbury. You go and eat Middle Eastern food, and everyone smokes a hookah pipe. It's a Turkish restaurant.
Okay.
Super popular.
So if we limit that, are we stepping on toes then? in that
I don't know if we
regard?
have one in those kind of restaurants in our town, but
I did a little bit of looking, and I didn't see any of those in Thurston County. And I also looked at the vendor, those folks who hold a license for tobacco, and also did not see that, but that isn't my expertise. Art, you might know.
Not without a microphone, he won't. There we go. Thank you.
So this is Art Starry with the Environmental Health Division. And we do periodically see where the issue with these comes in is clubs. So smoking in public places still applies to hookahs if they're burning the substance. So if you have a restaurant that's open to the public or another building that's open to the public, you can't have hookahs there. However, sometimes people will want to have clubs. There's a famous smoking club in Lacey, or just on the edge of Olympia, that because they have volunteer staff and whatnot, they're able to have cigarette smoking. And so the question becomes one of, if someone wants to establish a private club of some kind, how is it affected? We hadn't worked out all the nuances of how to work on the hookah stuff, but that is the problem of trying to address whether something is a public place and whether they have employees, and that's really probably the most difficult part of the smoking in public places law that we've dealt with.
Go ahead, Ty.
well, I'm all in favor of trying to reduce youth, targeting youth. I want to say that as a predicate because I have a lot of questions, and I don't mean to undermine the goal, because I support the goal. But I'm not sure what I'm being asked exactly. I mean, authorize staff to prepare a vaping in public places local policy. Are we talking about we'd have an ordinance?
We are talking an ordinance, yes.
Okay, and when we say public places, what do we mean? I mean, I thought this was focused on like parks, but public places
That's
is
already
way
been passed.
broader
So
than
Parks
that.
was passed last year by the board, and this is to extend, similar to the smoking in public places law. It would, depending on what you wanted, of course, match that. So what other counties have done around the state on this piece here is they have, if you turn it over to the back page there, it'll give you a chart of where they prohibit vaping. So there's 10 on this list, but there's actually 11 now that will be included on this list.
Which one are you referring to?
The
On the back one
blue
of these.
sheet yep, right there.
There you go.
This one on the back, okay.
So
Outdoor public places where children congregate?
No, indoor public. So this is dealing with indoor public places. So the outdoor public places piece that the board could do, they passed last year. So in Thurston County parks, vaping and smoking is not allowed. The board also, though, has the ability to make an ordinance around vaping in public places indoors. Similar to what Thurston County passed in 2014, we do not allow our employees to vape in the building indoors. So this idea comes from a similar, but will be countywide in public places, and it would match the smoking in public places law. So we're talking about
hang on.
restaurants,
No, jumping after
businesses.
And right now, that's okay?
It is
To smoke inside?
to vape inside.
Inside?
Yes, not
Anywhere?
here, not here in Thurston County because we have our own policy, but
Not here in Thurston County
facilities, right. Sorry, yes, thank you.
Right now, it's
Yes, you go to Safeway and vape in the aisle, in fact,
it's determined by, this is Art, Art again. So it really is dictated by the facility operator or owner. So if they want to prohibit vaping, they can do that. But there's nothing in state law that prohibits it. And right now, there's nothing in Thurston County code that prohibits that.
Okay, well, that kind of clears up that piece. Now, the next question is just kind of my ignorance about all of these technologies. I mean, because you go to the store and it's a bewildering array of products, and not just products, but apparatuses. I mean, I've seen people plug in little fans into the car cigarette thing, and I mean, I've seen a million things. Some of them are glass, some of them are, I mean, so when we say, is the definition of vaping, like, is it defined enough that it captures all this stuff? Because then you threw hookahs into it, as if hookahs wasn't part of vaping, and then there's e-cigarettes. I mean, I'm just worried that we're
No, it's a really good question,
like, how do we
right.
get everything categorized in a way that we don't have to
Bless you,
keep,
man.
so that people don't keep getting around the law based on new products? Because frankly, this is getting around. We don't allow cigarette smoking in places, and technology's gotten around the law. Like, they've come up with new ways to get nicotine into their system. create an exhale thing, but somehow it escapes the language of our statute. So here we are having to spend time. So is there a way to define what we're trying to stop in a way that
It's really
gets
a
ahead
good
of
question
technology?
because as someone who's worked in tobacco for about 10 years, it does often seem like we're kind of refining the language. I can tell you the first county that passed this was in 2011. Two counties, King and Pierce, passed it then. And the definition's been pretty well sauced out in state law for what vaping can, but that doesn't supersede the fact that big tobacco companies are creating new products that are different than vapes. But a vape pretty much is a vape, even though it looks different in different ways. The last time I was here, I actually had my whole kit of tricks. I wish you could have been there, and I'd be happy to come in and do an education session at any time with the board. But basically, all vapes take a liquid, heat it, and produce an aerosol. And then the inhaler inhales that. All vapes have a battery that heats that liquid to a very high thing to create the aerosol. So the technology, while it comes in everything from looking like a USB stick to a pen to the big chrome ones that you see that create a lot of, the technology is pretty much the same.
But you're saying hookah would need a separate definition.
What we're
because that
asking
wouldn't be
for,
incorporated.
the e-hookah can be done through steam stones, which is a different type of product. I can tell you that it's a somewhat separate categories. There's e-hookah pens that basically are vapes. And then there's hookah that the smoke is produced from charcoal. And then there's hookah that's produced by steam stones. That's why that second question is on there, for us to kind of do a little bit of investigation and see how we can look at the law and look at what other counties have done to be more comprehensive around supporting the 2006 law of smoking in public places, because there have been these little kind of ways to get around it.
Well, you see what I was getting at, though.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the hookah, I mean, it's like hookah to me is a very specific thing that I associate with, Alibaba and Haidash. I mean, I don't think of that as like a process, because you were saying it's basically a water pipe.
But hookah already is covered by the smoking in public places law. This is the newer versions of hookah that have steam stones and those different types of materials that create. And I have to be honest, hookah is not my main area of expertise, but I do know that EH has had past complaints.
Well, it's just an example of why, if there's a way to define it as like, any process by which you take in tobacco and expel something into the air, I don't care how you come up with a way to do it.
Well, and that's kind of what number 2 is asking for.
We don't really want people doing that.
Is asking for a more complete, comprehensive definition in the definition of that section.
And this would all be targeted at indoor public places?
Yes.
Indoor.
Yes.
I think I remember a conversation when we did it last year for the outdoor, because this says, of course, in public places. And I remember the old days when you're not allowed to drink, you still can't drink alcohol in public, but it was worded, or in public view. And so an officer's driving down the street and somebody yells from the front porch something derogatory, and the cop looks and gets offended. Oh, he's drinking a beer, that's in public view. And gets arrested. And it goes downhill from there. Does this say our current ordinance for outdoor, does it say in public places or in public view? Or do you know how it's worded? I don't remember.
Are you talking about the parks policy?
The parks one?
I'd have to look. I don't know.
I know it's limited to parks, but this will say in public places. I just don't know, and it hasn't defined it, you haven't written it up yet.
Right. We're asking for permission just to move forward to write something and ask.
I'm concerned that of misuse, where someone misuses discretion. That's where most people get into trouble, is when they misuse discretion. Am I right?
Yes,
oh my
you
gosh.
are right.
And so I just want it worded properly, so it meets the standard for the public, or the prosecuting attorney and the legal.
Of course.
And the sheriff as well, not knowing where this would go and who would enforce it. And then that was it. Yes, Romero.
So
Now back to Gary.
staff is requesting whether the board is interested in exploring this option. There's going to be several steps before you can consider final language.
Okay.
It requires a public hearing, depending on the magnitude, depending on the extent of the policy. So this is just an introduction to an idea.
You're
And if the board
opening
feels
the
there is
door.
something that you would like to explore, you're not making a decision whether you are going to implement the policy.
Okay.
Because that is going to take us some time and several steps for the staff to come back with some options to you. So that's really the encapsulating the point of decision at this point.
Okay.
Because the actual decision, whether you consider or not, will be after a public hearing and a good vetted language that you feel comfortable.
Are you telling me that you can now vape in, I don't know, the restaurant or something? I guess I'm kind of naive. I don't know very much about this, but so I go in my favorite restaurant that there's no smoking. And now you can be in there vaping?
So in Thurston County, we don't have any ordinance that protects that. So depending on the business owner can voluntarily put in a policy that would say no vaping. And we do offer signage to business owners that are interested in doing that. But it is, in other counties, if you go to Pierce County and have dinner, they do have an ordinance there, and you would not be allowed to vape.
Okay, how about, does it smell like tobacco? I guess I'm just not in it, I guess.
Vapes come in many, many flavors. It can smell like mint, it can smell like Captain Crunch, it can smell like grape gum, they can smell
candy.
really awesome. It can smell, and they also can have marijuana or other things in that vape liquid as well.
And that's a selling strategy for kids, is the smell.
Yeah.
It does have I mean, it's not as obnoxious as cigarettes, but it puts out a massive amount of smoke, and you can smell a little bit of, it's flavored tobacco, basically.
It really does depend on the product.
I guess what I see is, because I've never been exposed to it, I guess I'm kind of leading a sheltered life, I guess, but I see people like, maybe they'll have a sunroof or something like that, and all of a sudden a big puff of smoke comes out. So what, we make it illegal or something, and then the policeman pulls the guy over for smoking? Or how far does this thing go? I'm not in favor of it, obviously, but I'm wondering.
Well, number one, we'd have to see what the ordinance looks
Yeah,
like.
I mean,
So this is Art again, and as Ramiro indicated, the idea is to see if this is something you want us to work on. But and I think that the public places definition and whatnot would be largely modeled after the already the existing state law on smoking in public places. And that's what says you can't smoke in a restaurant, you can't smoke downstairs in the courthouse, even though we have our own county policy against that. You can't smoke in a bus, but you can smoke in your car, you can smoke in your house. You can smoke, you can smoke walking up and down the sidewalks. That's not considered a public place.
Okay.
So I think it would be modeled after that, maybe fine-tuned a little bit, because there are some vagaries in state law that, sometimes challenge. But the idea would be to develop some options for you to make sure we define what a vapor product is, or however it is that makes the most sense, to make sure that we have public places defined adequately. Places of employment, which are also considered to be public places, to make sure that's all addressed. But the intent isn't to go and tell someone what they can or can't do in their car that doesn't, or their own home, or again, their private office. That's in the smoking in public places law actually has considered most of those sorts of things.
One more?
Just
then we're going to vote.
real quick, I mean, my concern again is we always hear about we in government don't have enough money to take care of everything, obviously. I'm not saying this isn't very important, and I do have a concern. I don't want kids smoking, and I want to prevent that from happening. But I just think that, we've got people addicted to opioids and mental illness and the mental health component, all that comes along that really needs some attention. I mean, if we're going to address homelessness, we need to get our hands around, mental illness and drug addiction and alcoholism, all that kind of stuff. I just think we have to prioritize somewhat on how we expend our resources. Although my sympathies are there, I don't want kids smoking either. So I'm kind of torn between how far do we go down this path of telling the public what they can or can't do, and I don't want somebody sitting next to me smoking when I'm you know,
Yeah.
somewhere. So I don't know exactly the answer. You're asking for some direction, but I want to solve opioid addiction and alcoholism, and mental illness, and all that stuff. But does that mean we don't do anything on this? I don't know the answer to that, but it just seems like it's not a high enough priority, especially when we get into cultural issues, and maybe we're already in there. I don't know. The hookah thing, is that what it is?
Are we, is there these businesses that are like vaping lounges? I mean, can they be exempted if the primary business is that?
So that's a great question. Yeah, so what has happened, in state law, those businesses are allowed to do sampling and tasting, and now with Tobacco 21, those will be 21 over only businesses.
Okay.
So those would be exempted as part of whatever goes forward, if that is
Okay, good.
something. Also, just as a side note, tobacco is the #1 cause of preventable death in this country.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna
tobacco
say
use
that.
starts young. Over 90% of people who use tobacco start before they're age 18. Over 99% start before they're age 25. It is a major health issue. The funding is there from the Department of Health. This funding is only for tobacco and vape strategies.
Oh,
And
so,
at the same time, we are still working on all these other major issues as well.
so it's dedicated funding is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
I like option 2 myself.
And whenever these issues come to the board, what I do personally is ask, is this a function of government or not? And if it's not a function of government, I don't want to waste time. I believe this is. And so I'm ready to go also with option 2 to include vaping and hookah.
And hookah, huh?
At least look at it. I don't know
We'll
that
look at it. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know if that I'm okay with hookah, but
We'll
I'd like
look
to
at the
see
ordinance.
what we could do that would be reasonable.
Yeah,
and then-
there is going to be plenty of detail coming your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Dedicated funding, I'm okay with, you know,
Yeah.
as well, so.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Romero, do you want to move on to the sheriff's correspondence? You want to move to homeless regional? Or what would you like to do? Is one more important than the other? Oh, it's 9 till.
Maybe the letter to the governor.
Letter to the governor? That's
It's
what I meant,
attached
yes.
to
Number 3, the homeless response, yeah.
As you may recall, there was a desire by the board to send a letter to the governor.
Excuse me. Can't hear you. Hey, guys. Take it out. Take it out. Thank you.
It was urging the governor to declare a state of emergency related to homelessness across the state. And also, the board directed me to send this letter to all the mayors to see whether they would like to be participants on that letter. So this letter includes all the mayors back here. So there, we received 3 responses. One from the mayor of Yelm, stating that he was ready to sign the letter. We received a correspondence from the mayor of Tumwater, stating that Tumwater will not sign this letter. And we received a correspondence from Mayor Selby from Olympia, stating that to have a 2-step process, meaning to organize a meeting with the governor to highlight the need of this matter before sending that letter.
Governor or governor's staff?
With the governor.
Okay.
And in fact,
No.
it's been already scheduled for 1 p.m. on May 29th, 2018, and I believe it's in your calendar, if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner. The gist of this meeting with the governor will be to highlight the urgency and explore some options. Options that perhaps the state owns property in Thurston County, they make it available for mitigation sites. And perhaps urgent to see if there's any additional dollars that perhaps the governor with his purview has access to it to support this effort. And that was the gist of Mayor Selby. He said, wait until that meeting occurs and then join letter may be more appropriate for some specifics.
It's not on my calendar, but
I ran into her yesterday, and I didn't know what she was talking about, but you just kind of fleshed it out. And I think what she was saying was that she doesn't feel that the state is following the Boise decision, and the state thinks it has latitude that it may not have, and that we need to all get on this. I mean, it's part of our community in Olympia, obviously, so we need to all get on the same page about how we're treating homeless encampments and who's got what responsibilities. And there might be, and that dovetails what you just said about additional state resources because they have an obligation on their properties.
You said you were going to maybe get back to us as to how come Tumwater objected?
I had a meeting with the city managers yesterday, and John Don really didn't go beyond what you had received.
No, just, okay.
So my first response was, my reaction, not response, my first reaction was, I heard the cities didn't want to sign on, with the exception of Yelm, was let's go ahead and send a letter ourselves. Knowing that it might take considerable time to get on the governor's calendar, and then considerable time after that to, for whatever his staff might be working up to that event, there would be another couple months down the road. So my response was, let's just send a letter. But now I'm hearing that at the end of this month, in a few more weeks, there's a meeting with the governor.
With the governor, that's the information that I got from the city managers. And at that point I said, well, Commissioner Hutchins has been invited, so I'll make sure.
Okay, so it does include, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
go to the meeting.
What's the decision?
There's no decision to be made? Just
Send this letter
information?
without-
Let's wait.
I just bring this as a status, and perhaps my recommendation will be to go with the meeting.
I'll go with the meeting at this
See where
point.
it goes.
It's happening.
And then I will, as a result of that, you will be in a position to report back to your seatmates.
Well, I'm there, I can hand them the letter from us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll attend that meeting once it gets on my calendar. I don't know what time it is, but we'll figure that out. Now, is the sheriff's office correspondence might draw a lot of discussion, I'm not sure. And do you have public testimony follow-up that needs to be hammered out?
I don't have anything.
Don't have anything? Okay. Do you want to just, 4 minutes to noon, do you want to call it quits, or do you want to address the sheriff's court? There's
At
two
a
of
high
them.
level, we should.
Pardon?
Because we should address the
Let's do it then.
And one is one dated April 17.
Mhm.
And where the sheriff addressed to UCC, myself, and your seatmates, the rest of the board, where he outlines the impacts of Initiative 1639. And the impacts of 1639, Initiative 1639 is conducting the background checks. And I believe the process is, the requirement is that if somebody wants to purchase a firearm, needs to conduct a background check, and that goes back to the sheriff's office. And if it's a certain period of time in which the sheriff's office has to respond to the background check, if that doesn't, if they're unable to conduct the background check on that certain period of time, then that cell is released. And he outlined this in this letter, the impact they will have in terms of processing the number of applications, because it's an addition to that. Also on this letter, he doesn't conclude on an ask, meaning what is it he asks from the board, because he outlines the need, he outlines the impacts, but he doesn't outline the ask
Yeah.
in terms of the board. So I don't know what.
For something that's supposed to
Budget
hit in about a month and a half.
Budget amendment
So I'm
is
sure
where
this
the
board
ask
is planning
is.
to do a budget amendment. This may be the justification
Okay.
to do that.
So you're in conversation with them then about this?
I will, and I will probably have a conversation in terms of what is the ask. Perhaps Robin already gave you the answer to that. It's a budget amendment
Okay.
where you may be.
And that's already been presented to Robin?
I am looking right now to see if I can find.
I mean, this is just another unfunded mandate from the state, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Initiative.
Does anyone else find this letter terrifying to read that for every 100 pistols sold, there are 125 semi-automatic assault rifles sold?
Mhm.
I mean, I would have thought that number would be 2 or 3 for every 100 pistols
Oh,
sold.
no.
Is that just in Thurston County?
This is information that the sheriff got from, it says research conducted by several other counties, and then he confirmed it with Cabela's, which confirmed that semi-automatic assault rifle purchases exceed pistol purchases by 20 to 30%.
That's where he's at, yeah.
That is unreal,
Yeah.
absolutely unreal.
It's going to take me a little while to find them.
Maybe
because
while.
there's
So it's workload
Robin is
increase of
looking for that
125%.
information,
So many.
Look at the next letter, which is dated April 25th, 2019. And this is related to the impacts of the public records. In so many words, the sheriff states that he really doesn't get support from the prosecuting attorney's office and the records unit, public records unit. So you may recall the board approved the creation of the unit maybe 2 years ago on a trial basis. And as part of this process, you made the decision, the board, to have a permanent unit that will be an attorney and assistant. And in a way, I have to agree with the sheriff, because I don't believe that he's getting the services that perhaps all the offices and departments have. So,
Why
and this
not?
is just a brief perspective, because even when we develop a software, right, and an application where individuals, the public can submit public records, making an electronic tracking mechanism, and it's divided. Is one for the entire county goes to this public records unit, and then the other option is goes to the sheriff's office. So my suggestion for you will be to, if you authorize me to send a copy to the prosecuting attorney's office, and maybe I can engage with John on this. I already did briefly, because I start hearing from the sheriffs a little bit of concern of the support, of the lack of, perhaps. And if you like, then it will formalize this request, and I will engage John and see what his perspective is and come back to you.
Yeah,
Well, I guess I'm concerned from the total liability that the county is exposed to if we don't get this right. And so that was what this whole program through the prosecuting attorney's office was supposed to address. So if we've got one entity of county government out there doing its own thing, then we haven't solved what we tried to solve.
So, and again, my suggestion will be for John to have the opportunity to review this letter, maybe John to provide a response, and I will email that. You authorize me to do that, and hopefully he can provide a response.
Because I read it and I was just mystified. It's if we created this office to do this, and the 75% of the requests come to the sheriff, how could that not have been contemplated, whether they were going to get full service?
So the proposal, though, was never for full service for the offices and departments, to be quite clear. The proposal was always to have a coordinator, if you will, in the prosecutor's office to make sure that all of the requests for public disclosure came to a central location and the responses were complete, someone to help you with redaction, but every office and department still has to collect all of the documents that are responsive, and that's a lot of work for the sheriff's office because it is
But
like
sheriff's-
75%.
But what is occurring is exactly what you described is not occurring.
They're not
Because
coordinating?
It's not coordinating because even the portal in which the citizens can
The pipeline,
submit public
yeah.
records requests is two options. It's not the public records unit, it's just go directly to the sheriff's office. Then the first part, I believe, what is not occurring.
Okay.
That's my
Well, his letter says all other county agencies are only required to collect documents. Then the PAO processes a request from start to finish. Law enforcement, and then he's saying that, that's not happening for him.
So it could be as a matter of, education as to what this unit is supposed to be. It may be a combination of two things. So, but it would be good for John to give him the opportunity to respond to this.
Go ahead.
Didn't we just settle a case involving the sheriff's office through risk management having to do with something that didn't get found or forwarded to somebody that asked for information?
That was not a public records, it was a different,
Oh, that was not public records?
no, I don't.
I thought that was public records and they didn't have any record
Went
and
to
then they
spam.
found it stuck somewhere.
it was-
file.
it
We
was
got
not
briefed
this-
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't like to discuss this on this setting. because
Okay.
Oh.
Have an
that
executive.
has been settled.
Well, anyway,
It was
the
an
urgency
executive
is there
session.
to
You're
fix
right.
this.
Thank you.
You're right, it was a case related to that.
Okay, it's just, I mean, I just mention it because it's reality that we're dealing with. And I think it's timely that we get to the bottom of it in some fashion or another. I didn't know this was going on.
No, I didn't either.
I'm not getting the system to
So,
give
and I will
me-
follow up on the other letter, whether his intent is to submit a budget amendment.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anything for the good of the order? It's 5 after. No? Ty, Gary, thank you. Thomasina, Whitney, and Megan, thank you. And Romero
here we
and
go.
Robin, thank you very much.
Well, if you want to give me like 5 more minutes.
5 minutes about what?
5 minutes?
The legal assistance for the records section that is being requested is how much?
And that's for the
money?
background checks?
No,
Ben, she's looking.
This appears to be,
I thought we did I thought all the firearms dealers, especially Cabela's, I
44,000
thought they all did
for
what's
the
called a
public records.
NICS check or something like
44,000
that.
for public records.
Something, they
And
make you,
ICS,
they
yeah.
fill out a
I'm
form
looking
and
for
then
the
they
other one.
call somebody in Washington DC. It is a background check, so I don't think it matters because I think Cabela's does it on a single shot muzzle loader.
But the initiative
as
changed it
well.
to the local law enforcement does that now, as I read the letter. It's incumbent on the local law enforcement to do that, not the firearms dealer, not
Well,
the
like-
FFL people.
I still think they are required to do it. I think we're being redundant by doing this. I think it's already going to be done, so I think we need a little more information on this. That's all.
Yeah, Robin, no? Yes, no?
So,
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
legal assistance
foot long is
for
waiting.
the firearms is $44,000.
Wow.
Okay, well, we might have to take that out of the prosecutor's end of the,
That's for the initiative
Program.
1639.
I know, but unfunded mandate, that's the way I'm looking at it. It's just
Okay.
another unfunded mandate that we get from the state on a regular basis. And I could go on and on and on.
We say goodbye to
but
the
I'm
people
not
watching
going
at
to.
home.
So
Okay.
Thank you very much.
certainly budget amendments will not be part of today's
So-
discussion.
That's right.
Thank you.
And an additional 44,000 for the records section.
There you go.
So those are only two of the sheriff's requests that you'll see.